Calendar in the matter of Lagasso Brown versus Humphreys. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
How old are you, Miss Humphreys?
21.
Who is this?
This is Nicholas's father.
His father?
Yeah.
And what relationship do you have with Nicholas's father?
When I lived with them, his father would come over frequently, and after I left their house, I needed a place to stay, so I called him, and he said that he had a room.
You mean the father?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you work?
Yes.
What do you work for?
IBM.
Doing what?
Call center.
How long have you worked for them?
I just started the job, like, at the beginning of last month.
Before that, who did you work for?
McDonald's.
Who else, Miss Humphreys, lives with you and Nicholas's father?
It's just me and him.
You have a romantic relationship
No.
with him?
No.
How long have you known him?
Beginning of May.
Okay. Your last name is?
Lagasso.
Lagasso. How long have you been living in your home, Mr. Lagasso?
Probably a little under a year.
Do you rent or own?
Own.
And you rented a room to Miss Humphreys. She invited a boyfriend over at some point, and the boyfriend invited some people over, and your home got trashed. You want her to be responsible.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that when you threw her out?
No. I'm the owner of the house. My girlfriend Heather is the one that had the communication with her and conversations. I work a lot, and so I wasn't quite there for everything. I agree with everything, but she'd be the one better to talk to.
Who loaned Miss Humphreys $1,000 to buy a car?
I did, Your Honor.
Why?
At the time, I had checked her credit, her background, everything. I talked to her mom. Everything seemed legitimate. Her job was good, and
What do you mean her job was good? Who was she working for?
at the time, she had been with McDonald's for more than a few months.
And where does her mother live?
Ocean Shores, Washington?
Is that where you live?
No, it's a whole different state. We live in Wilsonville, Oregon.
What are you doing in Oregon?
I left Ocean Shores to go to PCC, and my dad lives there, and my grandpa lives in Salem.
So why don't you live with them?
They don't have enough room. They
I'm
have
sorry,
a
that's not
one-bedroom.
true. She came down chasing a guy.
The same guy that trashed your house?
Yeah.
Is he still around, Miss Humphreys?
No.
Well, you invited him over, is that right?
Yes.
And he's why she moved.
Just a minute, he caused the damage, right?
Yes.
But he was your guest.
Yes.
Then you're responsible.
I don't feel that I'm
I
responsible
don't care what
for
you feel. What you feel is totally irrelevant to me. Somebody extended their house to you, and they ended up with a trashed house because of you. If you hadn't invited your boyfriend there, and you hadn't had lack of supervision there, the house wouldn't have gotten trashed. Did you see what the house looked like after your boyfriend left?
Yes, I did.
And?
I don't feel that I'm responsible for it.
I don't care whether you feel you're responsible. I want you to tell me about the destruction that was caused.
There were a couple of holes in the walls.
From what?
He had punched the holes, some of holes in the wall, and then he had thrown me into a wall. And he kicked in my bedroom door because I tried to lock it.
And the graffiti was an accident, too.
Where is he now?
I'm guessing at his grandma's house
What makes you guess he's at his grandma's house?
because he likes to be there because he doesn't have to have any responsibilities there.
He's in jail.
When was the last time you saw him?
August?
When did this happen to your house?
July and August.
What do you mean July and August both?
In July, she had a party. In July, she claims she didn't have a party. She claims she just left to go to the store and came back to a party, a raging party.
Okay. And so why didn't you throw her out in July?
According to what I had found out, the tenant-landlord laws in Oregon, we had to give her the opportunity to rectify the damage, fix the problem. And so we did. And she agreed to pay for the damages. She set up, she paid a down payment of $100 and set up basically adding $200 to her rent every month. And then she wanted to sign a year lease to sort of give us the proof that she would be.
And then what happened in August?
Well, in July, we told her, sorry, the loser can't come back. And I also did the research and found out I had every right to trespass him from the property, and we did officially. We served her and him both with paperwork. I told him not to come back.
Very smart for you to invite her into your house. 3 A's you get for that, for judgment. Yeah, go ahead.
We told her, he can't come back. She seemed to really respond to that. Oh, I don't want him in my life. Not even 3 weeks later, we both came home from work on the first week of August. Everything was gone from her room. She had posters up on the wall that when we pulled down, revealed more damage, carpet.
I'd like to see the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
What prompted you to invite her into your house? Stand over there. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I just want this issue dealt with.
What prompted you to invite Miss Humphreys to live in your house?
Because she offered to pay me rent, and I wanted her out of their.
Keep going.
I want her out of their lives so there's no more turmoil between the two of them.
There's no more turmoil. Why would there be turmoil with them?
She still feels a little anguish against them.
She feels what?
She feels angry against them for coming after her for the money that her friend made.
I'm asking you why this is a stranger to you, unless you got friendlier when she was living there that I don't know about.
No, ma'am.
There are a lot of people out there if you wanted to rent a room. Why would you rent a room with somebody that trashed your son's home and that left owing him $1,000? Why would you want to do that?
I felt she needed a place to stay. I felt sorry for her.
Been there.
Sit.
She's really good at that. See, like, I'm innocent.
No, listen to me.
Feel sorry for me.
Listen to me. She could say feel sorry for me. How old are you?
46.
46. Pushing 50. 46
I
pushing
can't
50
argue.
doesn't feel sorry for this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't look healthy. 21-year-old girls are supposed to look the best of their whole life. You can either grow old and make yourself the hero of your own story, or you can be washed out when you're 30 and look like a piece of garbage.
And later today,
My good friend Alan Alda wrote a book about that. His parents thought they were doing him a favor when they had his dog stuffed. It scared the hell out of him for most of his childhood. I'm telling you, I'm not so sure it's a great idea.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicholas Lagasso and Heather Brown claim former tenant Samantha Humphreys owes for an unpaid loan and for damage to the home caused by her ex-boyfriend.
All right. Nice.
As you can see, those aren't just punching holes in the walls.
No. What's he in jail for? Is not an answer.
She doesn't know.
I really don't know. I haven't talked to him since August.
We just looked up the jail roster before we left, and he was on it.
Well, what would make you think he was at his grandma's house?
Because that's where he loves to be.
Well, you caused the problem. You invited the guest. The guest was uncontrolled, and you invited him not once, you invited him twice. Did you have him arrested for domestic violence?
No, ma'am.
Well, he punched you. He threw you into a wall. You don't understand that?
I didn't press charges.
You should go home. You're not ready to be out. Lots of things look like they happened to you, but you're not ready to be out. Can you go home?
At this time I could, but I like the city better. There's more opportunities out there.
I don't think that's...
And I have a good job at IBM, $10 an hour. I don't want to lose that job.
Her mom disagrees with that.
You've made, at a young age, some very bad choices, Miss Humphreys. You don't look healthy. 21-year-old girls are supposed to look the best of their whole life. You look like you're struggling. I don't know what's going on in your life, but you can either grow old and make yourself the hero of your own story, or you can be washed out when you're 30 and look like a piece of garbage. You keep making bad choices, long-term bad choices. So you think twice about whether or not you go home and get healthy before you do anything else. Now, you have an estimate for fixing up the house.
Yes, ma'am. Total damages $22.49.
Do you still have the car that you purchased with the down payment from them?
No, it got repossessed.
How much did you spend on a car?
I can't really remember. Somewhere around 13.
She didn't pay attention.
I went on Craigslist.
Go home.
Okay.
Them $2,249 for the repairs to their house, another $1,000 that this young lady loaned you for the car. It's $3,249. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't think that she should have awarded them that money.
Glad to see it settled. I just want to go home and, fix my house.
He was the one that put the holes in the wall. the damages, so I don't feel that they should have gotten that many.
The damages were outrageous.
It wasn't my fault that he had put the holes in the wall.
You know, I'm a young guy too, and I don't, I treat my stuff and other people's stuff with respect. I don't see how anybody could do that.
I told his friends to get out because they were drinking in the house, and he got mad at me and just went off.
She may be the kind of girl that is influenced by men and influenced enough to let him beat her.
A friendship that I lost because my boyfriend did all these damages.
Same thing, the friendship. I mean, she's a sweet girl. She just needs a little guidance.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Murphy versus Gray. Step forward.
Pam Murphy is suing taxidermist Danny Gray for the return of money she paid to have her late Pomeranian stuffed. Pam says Danny never completed the job.
Miss Murphy, you had a pet that you were very attached to. What kind of a dog was it?
A Pomeranian.
And it was a female. When she was ill, sort of towards the end of her life, you had trying to make arrangements for her to, I don't know what the taxidermist does, what you call it.
I was going to have her stuffed.
Stuffed. And you contacted Mr. Gray. You paid him in advance $300 for his services. When your dog passed away, Mr. Gray took possession of the dog, and you want your money back because he did not perform the services that he was supposed to. And in addition, you want some money for pain and suffering because you say that you can't have her stuffed anymore because of the way she was kept.
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you do with her, ultimately?
Right now, she's in my freezer. I'm going to have her cremated, and I've got to get an urn and all that. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. And when do you plan on doing that?
When I get back.
You should
I
do
did.
that.
I kept her because the reason being is because I knew that I was going to take him to court. I had another taxidermist come to my home and evaluate her present condition, of which I have for you, just so we know where we started and where we are today.
Do you have your own, Miss Murphy, do you have your own home?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the law permit you to have her buried on your property?
I don't know that.
What you plan on doing is having her cremated?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good idea. I know, I just lost one. I'm not sure whether I would want to see her around every day.
Well, I initially wanted to have her stuffed, and he was going to get he had a flex form for her, and I was going to let her.
I understand what you want.
Yeah.
What you had wanted. I'm not so sure that's a great idea.
I know it's out there. Yes.
I just don't think it's a great idea. My good friend Alan Alda wrote a book about that. His parents thought they were doing him a favor when they had his dog stuffed. It scared the hell out of him for most of his childhood. So, I'm telling you, I'm not so sure it's a great idea.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I want to know, other than thinking, what did you do?
I just got all the information together.
So the answer is you did a lot of thinking.
A lot of thinking.
Danny Gray cheated her out of the money she paid to have her Pomeranian stuffed. Danny is countersuing for defamation of character.
Okay. Do you have another dog?
I do now, yes.
What kind of dog do you have?
Same, a Pomeranian.
Pomeranian. A puppy?
She is. She's a pocket blue merle.
Okay. All right. You'll fall in love again.
I know.
All right, Mr. Gray. You didn't do your job.
I need a little more time on her request. It was a very unusual request.
All right. Well, did you tell her she was a very unusual request when you took her $300?
Well, at that time, she didn't have everything in detail.
That's not what I'm asking you, sir. Did you tell her when you took her $300 that it was a very unusual request?
Yes, I did.
Did he tell you it was
No, he did not.
No, because Mr.
He said
Gray,
he was happy
even
to do it.
according to your answer, sir, you said, I had a lot of other things going on at that time in my life. Stressors. You were taking care of an ailing mother, you were moving your business, you were doing lots of other stuff, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You have a certain amount of sympathy for that from one human being to another, but that doesn't mean that Miss Murphy's not entitled to her money back. You didn't do any work for it.
Yes, I did. Here's a drawing. I had to sketch it out in order to make an
Just a
animal
second.
move.
Other than the sketch, what did you do?
Well, I had to thaw it out and take all the dimensions, measurements.
Yeah, I know your thinking process takes a very long time, sir.
The actual
What
mounting
did
process,
you do?
The mounting process was not going to take place until I got the form constructed.
Just a second. Did you have the form constructed?
No, I haven't had it completed.
I want to know, other than thinking, what did you do? The answer is either nothing, or I built something, or I started to build something. I have pictures of what I started to build that I can show you, Judge.
I just got all the information together.
So the answer is you did a lot of thinking.
A lot of thinking.
Unfortunately, sir, in your business, you don't get paid for thinking. You get paid for doing.
It takes a lot of time to get all the information together.
Listen to me, sir. Doesn't take any time. You had the body of her pet in your freezer. Now, when did you put your thought process to that drawing that you were dying to show me?
The minute she started telling me she wanted to be able to be moved in different positions, the whole thing had to be tanned. It's not a standard process.
So what I'm asking you is, are you telling me that as soon as you saw the plaintiff, you thought about it and you made that drawing?
I didn't make that drawing at that time.
Just a second. You know, he's not going to get over me. It's not going to happen. You didn't do your job. You had other things going on in your life, and this took a back burner. You have to give her money back. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now,
When Your Honor, may I say something?
what?
When she come on my property to get her dog, I had a customer there, and she was running my customers off, telling them to get their
Yes, I
money
did.
Just a
back.
second.
Sure
Mr.
did.
Gray, shh. Listen. She's a dissatisfied customer. Now we're going to get to your countersuit, sir. Your countersuit says that she posted defamatory things about you, and
Yes.
you lost customers.
Yep.
And I'm
She's a-
still going to be losing them.
Listen, sir, you tell me what she said that was not true.
Me ripping people off. I have never
Now,
ripped a person off.
Just listen to me.
Not one.
Listen to me. Did she ask you for her money back?
Yes, she did.
Just listen. Miss Murphy, I can really take care of myself. It's not a difficult
Yes,
case.
ma'am.
When she asked you for your money back, did you give her money back?
No, I didn't have it at the time.
Well, that's your problem. Then you ripped her off. Then you didn't do your job, you took her money, and you ripped her off. So if your counterclaim has to do with the fact that she defamed you by telling your customers that you ripped her off, in her mind, and actually, based upon what you tell me, that's what you did. Now, if you said, I didn't do my job, and when she came and I gave her pet back and I said, I'm sorry, I didn't do my job, here's you $300. And then she wrote, you ripped her off, maybe we would have a discussion. But if your response to me is, I spent her money and I didn't do the job, then you ripped her off.
I think my time's worth something. I spent a lot, took a couple of hours on this measurement process, and it has to be done
I don't
before
believe you,
anything
sir.
else has to be done.
Don't believe you.
Well,
You have any way of proving to me that that drawing was done 6 months ago?
no, ma'am.
That's what I'm saying to you, Mr. Gray. Now we understand each other. You took her $300. You didn't do the job. When she asked for her $300 back, you said, I spent it. She gets her $300 and you count the claims dismissed. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties excused. May step out.
Judge, what about the punitive?
Yeah. No, listen to me. That's not happening.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yes, case number 161 on the calendar, the matter of Zaluki versus Birch.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Zaluki, the defendant was a roommate in your condo apartment.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she moved out 2 months prior to the termination of the lease. You want your money.
Roger.
And you also were requesting some money for property damage that her dog allegedly did in the house. Miss Birch acknowledges she moved out prior to the termination of her lease.
Correct.
She says several things, however. She says that you moved an army of people into the house during the time she was a tenant in the house. She had every reason to leave, and she is counterclaiming because she says that somebody did something very nasty to her dog. So let's have a few questions to you, Mr. Zaluki. First of all, where was this apartment?
Your Honor, it was North Hollywood.
When did you sign a lease?
It was July 1st of 2009, Your Honor.
And how did you meet the defendant?
Your Honor, I actually have known Nicole for quite some time now.
From where?
We used to work together
Where?
at TGI Fridays in Kansas.
How long have you known her?
I've known Nicole for almost 6 years now, Your Honor.
Did you come out to California together?
No, we did not.
Who Who came first?
I came out here first, Your Honor.
And she came out afterwards and moved into your apartment?
Yes, that's correct.
How many people were in the apartment at the time?
Your Honor, be more specific about the situation. I was living in a two-bedroom apartment with one of my roommates, Greg. At one point, Nicole came to visit us to kind of, get a feel for how California was to see if she really wanted to move out. At that point, she, acknowledged that she would want to move in with us. So what we
So you took a larger apartment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. You took a three-bedroom?
Yes, Your Honor.
And all three of you were on the lease?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did your girlfriend move in?
Your Honor, she moved in officially, and she's my wife, actually,
When did she move in?
February of 2010.
When did she start staying there?
She started staying there in November of 2009, on and off when she came to visit from her home country.
From her own what?
Home country, Your Honor. She's from Poland.
So she started staying with you in November of 2009.
That's correct.
Now, did she share a room with you?
Yes, she
She shared your room with you?
Yes.
Did she pay any additional rent?
Negative.
The answer is negative.
Okay.
So you had another person living in the house, and you were still splitting the rent three ways.
Yes, correct.
Now, who was this other person who was crashing on the couch, Miss Birch?
That would be Matt's friend Joe.
And why was he crashing on your couch?
Your Honor, back when we were in the two-bedroom apartment, he lost his job and didn't have a place to stay. So out of kindness of my heart and my other roommate, we decided to give him a place to stay until he got back on his feet and got a new job. At that point, it did transfer over to the three-bedroom.
What does that mean? It transferred over to the three-bedroom?
That he was still with us at the point when we went to the three-bedroom. So when Nicole moved into the three-bedroom, Your Honor, he was still there.
And you're still splitting the rent three ways?
Correct. And the agreement that we had with Joe was that because he had scarce money, he was on unemployment, so he would either help out with food, occasionally he'd help out with occasional money. So if we had utilities or any other bills, I would pay them with Joe's money, and then the remaining amount would get dispersed three ways.
So far, you moved two extra people into an apartment where there was supposed to be only three people, Mr. Zaluki.
Absolutely. And Your Honor, and Nicole was fully knowledgeable about Joe at that time, and she had no problems with him. She was actually pretty good friends with him.
Whose friend was he?
He originally was me and Greg, the other roommate's friend.
Right. He came with you.
Yes,
He
correct.
came according to you as a package. When did you move out, Miss Birch?
March 14th of 2010.
Tell me why.
Well, first to start off, yes, there were too many people living in the house. At that point, Joe had moved out, but he'd lived there 8.5 months. I was not okay, by the way, with him living there. And when I voiced my opinion, there was nothing that they would do to appease me. And Joe was paying $400 a month. I never saw a dime of that money, and my rent was not reduced because of it. Then on top of that, the big thing was with my dog. I know Tootsie, my dog, Cocker Spaniel, did damage to the carpet, which I paid after I'd moved out. I paid him $250, which covered more than what it cost him to clean the carpet. I paid him extra in case he had to paint my room or something like that. And I also paid all of April so that he'd have enough notice. So I gave him pretty much 45 days
So
notice.
you moved out March 14th.
Correct.
And you paid March's rent and April's rent.
Correct.
Tell me why you moved out.
Okay. At that point, it was more a matter of it felt like a ship was going down. Our utilities, as far as what I would pay utilities, I would pay the amount he asked me to pay, and the cable would still get shut off, or the gas would get shut off, even though I'd given him the full amount that he asked. None of Joe's money was going towards any of that. Greg was late on rent. Out of the 9.5 months that I lived there, we received 7 3-day notices of eviction.
Why is that, Mr. Zaluki?
Your Honor, ultimately it comes down to our third roommate was always late.
When did Miss Birch tell you that she was leaving?
I'd say the second week of February. Nicole came to me saying that she was unhappy with the living situation.
What was she unhappy with?
She was
Mr.
unhappy
Zaluki?
about the fact that Greg was always late on rent, and we always kept getting a 3-day notice.
Right.
And she was nervous about that.
So Miss Birch came to you and said, I'm unhappy with you and your friend Greg.
Yes, correct.
And a whole bunch of other things, because by that time your girlfriend is now living with you full time and not paying any rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Joe is at this point just leaving,
Yes, Your Honor.
but he's been there 8.5 months.
Yes, Your Honor.
And all you guys and your girlfriend can't get your rent together on time. Was her rent ever late?
Mine and hers were.
No, hers.
No, Your Honor.
And where's Greg?
Greg,
Yep. You're not going to be able, Mr. Zaluki, to think fast enough for me.
Yes.
Where is Greg?
Currently, Your Honor?
Yes.
He is, I'm not sure. He moved out
When?
July 1st.
And are you currently living in the apartment with just your wife?
No, Your Honor.
Who lives there?
No one, Your Honor. I gave up the apartment, fixed everything, cleaned up, and returned
Now,
it to the
when
landlord.
you moved out of the apartment, how many people were living there?
It was just me, Your Honor, my wife, and Greg.
That's 3 people.
Yes, Your Honor.
3 people to share the rent.
2 people, Your Honor.
No, 3.
Okay.
At your choice.
Yes, Your Honor.
She moved into an apartment, sir, with 3 people.
Yes, Your Honor.
3 people on the lease. 5 people lived there at various times.
Yes, Your Honor.
She doesn't have to tolerate that.
I understand that, Your Honor, but ultimately, she knew about that. She agreed to it. When she moved in, she never had a problem with that.
I want to tell you something, sir.
Yes.
She didn't agree to have your girlfriend there. You brought her. I want to ask if you had a powwow and said, I would like my girlfriend to come and live with us. She is not going to pay any rent. And is that okay with you?
Your Honor, I did have that conversation. I sat down with all the roommates and told them, this is what's going on.
Not told them. I didn't ask you whether you told them.
I did ask them what they thought about it. They all liked Dorothy very much. They were actually really good friends. Dorothy asked Nicole if she could be her maid of honor, which she agreed. So there was no problems whatsoever within the household.
Well, there must have been a problem, sir. You told me that she came to you in February and told you she wanted to leave.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You and your friend, the moron who maybe slept on the couch or somebody else, ever give her dog alcohol?
Negative, Your Honor.
And later today,
Listen to me carefully, Miss Cornelius. You lied to me. I didn't lie to you. Yes, you did. You lied to me in your complaint. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You may say, no, I'm going to have the last word. I'm telling you that you did.
former roommate Nicole Birch broke their lease. Nicole says she had every right to do so. She is countersuing, claiming someone in the apartment fed alcohol to her dog.
Now, she didn't want to leave because of anything other than there were a whole bunch of financially irresponsible people.
Yes, absolutely.
You had Joe sacking out on the couch because he wasn't working. You had your girlfriend coming over from Europe. She wasn't working. You had your friend Gregory, who was living with you and not paying his rent on time.
Yes.
And you had her, who was getting a 3-day eviction notice every month.
And Your Honor, I took that burden upon
Yeah, I know.
myself, and I took care of it. She never paid any extra out of pocket. I took care of it. We were never evicted.
You don't have to be evicted, sir. It goes down on your credit. You're late on a car payment, you're late on your rent. All that stuff accumulates, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
You lived there with 3 people the last 2 months of your lease.
Yes.
You, Greg, and your fiancée/wife.
Yes, Your Honor.
Pay your own rent.
I agree, Your Honor. And I did
Good.
pay my own rent.
Perfect. Pay your own rent
Yes.
for the apartment.
For apartment, we
She's
had
not
an-
paying anymore.
Your Honor, we had an agreement.
Mr. Zaluki, pay careful attention to me.
Yes.
She's not paying anymore. Now we're going to get to the dog damage. Did she give you $250 to clean the carpet?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Can I see proof that you gave him $250 for any damage that your dog did to the carpet?
It shows that I transferred it to his account after I
I'd like
moved
to
out.
see it. By the way, Mr. Zaluki, did she pay April's rent?
Your Honor, she did not
God.
pay full April's rent.
That requires a yes or a no.
No, Your Honor.
Do you have proof that you paid April's
Yes,
rent?
ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. How much was her rent?
$833, Your Honor.
She paid it on April 2nd, and she paid you $250 on May 7th to clean the carpet. Now I'm going to get to your counterclaim. Did you and your friend, the moron who maybe slept on the couch or somebody else, ever give her dog alcohol?
Negative,
No.
Your Honor.
Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog, Your Honor.
What kind of a dog do
It's a
you have?
Corgi Terrier.
Is there only one dog in the house?
At the time when we were living with Nicole, yes. When Dorothy moved in February, there was another dog.
Was there a pet deposit that you had to put down with your landlord?
Yes.
For whose dog? No. When you signed the lease, who had a dog?
When we signed the lease, Nicole had a dog.
And you put down a pet deposit?
Yes.
How much?
$250.
So is what you're telling me that pet deposit was still on the books when your girlfriend moved in with her dog?
Yes, correct.
You got a lot of nerve.
Your Honor,
I
at that
don't know.
point...
I'm not listening. That's a statement, sir. It did
Understood.
not require an answer.
Okay.
Now, your counterclaim says that your dog got sick. You took the dog to the vet. The vet report is going to indicate that somebody fed the dog some sort of alcohol.
Or, yeah, poison. That's what.
I'd like
yeah.
to see it.
It's just all I have was the receipt.
Well,
And then-
that's not good enough for me.
Okay.
That's hearsay, because anything else that you have to tell me is hearsay.
It does show that they gave her Toxaban, though,
I
the
don't-
charcoal.
If you had a medical report, I would read it.
Okay.
But you don't have a medical report, so I can't just look at that and then you tell me that the dog was sick and somebody told you that the dog had been fed some sort of a toxic material. Mr. Zaluki, I hope you're happy with your wife. She doesn't owe you any money.
Your Honor.
Case is dismissed.
Your Honor.
That's all.
Please excuse me. may step out.
I'm the type of person that if there's 10 people living there, that's fine.
You know, I paid money to be a friend and help the situation out.
But I'm not paying a third of the rent if 10 people are living there.
So people actually have a home, and
I think everything fell apart around September. That's when we had our first 3-day notice of eviction.
other people are, you know, can't live up to their responsibilities.
And that was the first huge red flag, and everything just kind of unraveled after that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cornelius versus Turner. Step forward.
22-year-old Michelle Cornelius is suing her former roommate, 22-year-old Brittany Turner, for unpaid rent and for damaging her TV.
Miss Cornelius, how old are you?
I'm 22.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for assisted living, doing direct support care, working with the mentally disabled.
How long have you been working there?
I've been there for a year and a half now.
And you, Miss Turner, how old are you?
I'm 22.
And where do you work?
I work at Addis Healthcare. I'm a home care aide.
How long have you been there?
Since 2008.
Miss Cornelius, it is your claim that she owes you for some rent from when she was living with you and a broken television set.
Yes.
That's from a year ago.
Yes.
And, you know, I have an aversion towards cases that are a year old. So I read your case very carefully, which is why I asked you these questions. Because what you said was you didn't know how to get in touch with her.
No, I didn't.
Well, what do you mean you didn't know how to get in touch with her? She works at the same place where she's worked since 2008.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Me and her became to tussle. We started wrestling on the floor, and by the time I pushed Brittany off of me, she picked up my candle decorations off my table and threw it at my TV.
Turner owes for rent and for smashing her TV. Brittany claims it's Michelle's fault her TV was damaged.
So it's very easy to track her down and to file a small claims court against her. What?
I could never catch Brittany up there. It's not like if I go into her job, they would.
When did you file a claim against her?
In May.
May of what?
2010.
May of 2010. So I'm saying you filed the same case against her in May of 2009, and you have her served at a place of business.
This just happened May 28th of 2009.
Then you filed a complaint in June 2009.
But Brittany explained to me that she was going to pay me my money.
That's not what you told me here, Miss Cornelius, in your complaint. You say to me, I was unable to track her down. You didn't say to me, when you swore to this complaint, I kept speaking to her and she kept telling me she was going to pay me. What?
I only spoke to Brittany once, then her phone was cut off.
Now you got 30 seconds to tell me about your case, because now I'm not believing much of what you're saying to me. Go.
Well, I met Brittany.
I don't care where you met her. She moved in with you. What months does she owe you rent for?
She owes me for April and May.
And tell me about the television set.
Brittany came in my house one day. She was going out. She went out one day on Thursdays. She came in the house knocking on the door loud and everything because she couldn't get in. She couldn't find her keys or something because she was drunk. I let her in the house. She was coming there noisy, I guess, from partying. She was still hyped up or whatever, and she was loud. I asked her could she quiet down because me and my daughter were asleep. She told me no, I didn't have to be quiet because I pay rent here. I explained to Brittany that she hasn't paid any rent for 2 months, and she was still loud. She ended up pushing up on me, getting in my face, and I asked her to back up. She's still pushing up on me in my face. Me and her became to tussle. We started wrestling on the floor, and by the time I pushed Brittany off of me, she picked up my candle decorations off my table and threw it at my TV. It's a set. She threw the whole set at the TV, in which I have pictures. She put 2 holes.
Did you report it to the police?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because after she did that, I asked her to leave. I told her she had to go. She needs to go now. She left the premises with no problem.
But she destroyed your property, according to you.
Yes, she did.
Well, that's a police matter.
I didn't think to call the police right then and there.
All right, Ms. Turner, your turn.
Okay, I did go out for drinks, Your Honor, but I never came home rowdy. Michelle was going tit for tat for me because she has an anger problem, first of all.
No,
Yes, I agree, we did.
Don't interrupt her.
We did have a tussle, but after we got through tussling, Michelle picked up her own candle holder, threw it at me, and I ducked that she had her own TV. So I'm not understanding why she's saying I bust her TV open, because to my knowledge, I did. I never was drunk or anything. I had 2 drinks that night. So I'm not understanding.
What do you mean you're not understanding?
Why she said I bust her TV.
Well, she's saying because she says that that's what happened. You say she took a candlestick and threw it at you and it missed you and hit her TV.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't know who's telling the truth and who's not.
My witness is here, Kiana Wise. I called her after the TV.
I don't care if you called her. She wasn't there. She's not a witness.
Okay.
Unless she, of course, confessed to her that she broke your TV.
No, she told me she would pay for everything. She told me, she was like, I understand that I did break the TV and I'm going to pay to get it fixed. I'm going to pay you and your rent money. She told me that.
I don't believe that, Miss Cornelius.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, listen to me carefully, Miss Cornelius. You lied to me.
I didn't lie to you.
Yes, you did. You lied to me in your complaint.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You may say, no, I'm going to have the last word. I'm telling you that you did. You tell me that the reason you didn't file this complaint is because you couldn't locate her.
I couldn't.
Hey, she's been working at the same place. We already got that down pat. And I don't want to hear, I went up there and I didn't know if I could find her. I didn't know you could reach her. Let me ask you this question. When you filed your small claims court case against her this time, where did you serve her?
To her house, her mom's house. That was the
Just
last...
a second. Where has your mother been living?
Well, for the last 7-8 months, she's been living in Blue Island.
Is that where you're staying?
Yeah, from time to time, not really, no.
Who gave you the summons?
It came through UPS, but I was
That's
being
the same way you serve her at her job.
They told me
June.
I needed, when I tried to serve her and put her address, the court explained to me I needed a house address.
Well, that's not true. You can serve her.
That's what they told me, and that's why I was trying to figure out a house address, and I knew if I sent it to her mother's house, hopefully her mother would give her the summons.
Miss Cornelius, I'm not satisfied about who broke your television set, so I'm dismissing your claim.
But if she knows she...
Why?
What about the rent? She owes...
Earlier, June 2009, not July 2010. Do you understand? This was wrong.
How was that wrong? If she didn't pay me for
I
April
told you.
and May.
I'm not going to tell you again. It was wrong because you could find her. You just
couldn't.
chose not to for a year.
I did look for... I looked for her.
Party's excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, it's case number 316 on the calendar in the matter of Diaz Garcia versus Torres Manjarres.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
How old are you, young man?
16.
You just get your driver's license?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. And how did you damage Mr. Garcia's car?
Well, I don't know if it was damaged already.
I don't care what you know. How did you damage Mr. Garcia's car?
I opened my door.
Explain that to me.
Well, I parked in a tight spot
Why?
because I was running late to work.
And the only parking spot was very, very small.
Yes.
What kind of car were you driving?
Silverado.
Big car.
Yeah. Yes.
Whose car is it?
My car.
Mother's car. How long have you been driving it?
Since I got my license.
Which was when?
August 23rd.
And when did you hit Mr. Garcia's car?
September 4th.
So, within a week of getting your license, you had your first accident.
Yes.
So you parked in a spot that was too small for your car because you were in a rush.
Yes.
And when you hit his car, you hit the mirror of his car.
Yes.
With your big Silverado truck. What kind of car was Mr. Garcia's?
Dodge Dakota.
What did you do when you hit it?
I waited for security because security's always walking around.
What do you mean you waited for security? You just stood at your car?
Yeah, waited in my car for security to come.
You waited in your car?
Well, outside, standing on.
Yeah. What's your first name?
Edgar.
Edgar. Let's start that again. You got out of your car because you were late.
Yes.
You parked in a spot that you shouldn't have parked in. You hit Mr. Garcia's mirror. You started to give me a whole story about you didn't know if it was damaged before or what it looked like before. And then you just stood there for security to come.
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Or are you telling me that security came by?
I waited for security to come.
How long did you wait?
5 minutes.
You waited 5 minutes for security.
Well, I don't know the exact time, but it was a few minutes.
How many seconds did you wait for security? How many seconds did you wait?
20, 30.
20 seconds. Now, when you hit Mr. Garcia's car, did you call your boss to tell him you'd be late?
Yes.
So that would be a record of that in the phone. Before security came, did you call your boss and tell him you'd be late?
No.
No! because you could have called your boss and told them that you were going to be late before security came, right?
Yes.
Because you knew there'd probably be paperwork. But you didn't. You just stood there and waited for security. Now, you were running late for work. What time were you Do you understand where we're going, madam?
Yes, I am. I understand.
I knew you would understand. There is nothing more satisfying than grilling a teenager when he's trying to make excuses. Now, where were you exactly when security came upon your car? Where were you standing?
Outside.
Outside where? Front or back of the car?
Side door.
No, because that was a very, very narrow space, narrow enough so that you hit his window. So you weren't standing in between unless they came up on you.
They came up on me.
That's right. Now, Edgar, anything else you want to tell me?
Supervisor of security was standing waiting for me because I'm not supposed to be by myself because I'm underage outside of the casino.
What does that mean? You're not supposed to be by yourself, you're underage?
Because it's at a casino.
Yes? What do you do there, Edgar?
I work at the Fun Center as a party attendant.
What time were you due at work that day?
4.
And what time was it when you hit Mr. Garcia's car?
Right before 4.
How much before 4?
Like 2 minutes, but like 3:58.
Perfect. Can I see a picture of the mirror of your car? Is what you're telling me the mirror fell off?
Yes, Your Honor.
What year is your car, Mr. Garcia?
98.
What year is your car?
2007.
Do you want to tell me why you think your son is not responsible and therefore you're responsible for replacing this mirror?
I am insured, and Mr. Diaz wanted cash from the beginning and brought me a falsified receipt.
Just a second. If you have insurance...
Yes.
Just a second. Do you have a deductible on your insurance?
Yes, I do.
How much?
$500.
And how much did he want to fix the mirror?
$306.
So then why would you go through your insurance?
Because my car's not damaged. I wasn't going to pay the deductible.
Just a second. Your car had no damage at all?
No, my car's not damaged at all.
Now, if you report that your 16-year-old son, who had a license for 4 days, had his first accident, how much do you think your insurance would go up? A lot.
Probably.
So why wouldn't you want to take care of this bill for $300 without going through your insurance?
Because at the moment that it happened, I was in ICU with my husband.
Just a second.
And I wasn't
So is what you're telling me it was not a good time?
No, the accident happened, and I texted Mr. Garcia, Mr. Diaz, which I have the report from my company. I was in ICU at the moment. I couldn't take the call.
Listen to me. This is not a drama. I asked you a question. If I had a 16-year-old son who had his first accident 5 days after he got his license, there was no question that the damage he caused was his fault because he parked in a very tight spot, he wasn't careful opening his door, he hit somebody else's car. You are absolutely liable. The damage was small, and it could have been handled for a small amount of money, whereas if you reported it to your insurance companies, your premium would have gone up over the next, 5 years, 7 years, however much it was. I guarantee you far more than $300.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
His insurance company conducted an investigation and determined that the accident was your fault, and therefore his insurance company was not going to pay.
No.
And later today,
What other money do you think that he owes you for other than the $225?
I'm real strong about the travel arrangements, Your Honor.
I don't care if you're strong about them. Keep going.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jose Diaz Garcia says co-worker 16-year-old Edgar Manjarres sideswiped his side view mirror. Edgar and his mother, Daniela Torres, are countersuing for harassment and threats.
Now, I understand that you were in ICU with your husband. That has nothing to do with this accident.
No, but I am insured, and I offered to pay, but he brought me a Dodge printout with the amount, which is correct, because that's what my mechanic told me, but under it, he wrote more money. I'm not going to give him more than what it is.
Just a second. If you were going through your insurance company, you told me you were going to go through your
I was going to go through my, he offered, which is a minor. I wasn't around when it happened. He texted me and said, I got into an accident, and I go, okay, fine, I'll fix it when I come back. By then, he had offered money to Mr. Diaz, not offered. They came into a mutual agreement.
He can't come to an agreement with a 16-year-old.
Well, because he's a minor. So when I came back, I said, no, we are insured. I've been paying insurance for 23 years.
Fine, so you wanted to go through your insurance?
Yes, but then he kept on texting me, and I said, I can't answer your phone calls right now. I'll call you when I get back. And he put a claim with this insurance company, which he did but it got declined because he didn't want to give them my info. He didn't want to go through my insurance.
He didn't want to go through your insurance?
No, I have farmers.
That's not true.
Why would he not want to go through your insurance?
It is declined.
I just want to see what letter she has, please. They conducted an investigation and determined that the accident was your fault, and therefore, his insurance company was not going to pay.
No. No, yes, that's what happened. I'm not saying that's not what happened.
That's what this letter says.
Yes, and when I offered him my insurance, when that came along to my house, he said he wanted cash and brought me the receipt.
Fine. You have to pay him for his car. How much is it to replace the window?
The total right now is $549.
I want to see what you have to replace this mechanism, and then the defendant is going to show me what she says she can have it fixed for, the same thing.
Yeah,
Let me
this is
see.
the original receipt, Your Honor.
Let me see what you have. You have something different?
Yes, well, I have the one he gave me, which I
I'd
called
like to
Dodge,
see it.
and they said they didn't write that, but
I went to the Dodge twice.
Hers. His.
Right, 30673. Okay, so you have to pay for the mirror, no question. You understand that? Your accident, you pay for it. And mother lets you drive a big car, and you act irresponsibly when you're 16 years old. Your mother has to pay for it. And I don't care if you get the money back from your insurance company or not. It's your insurance company. He's not going to go through his insurance, so his insurance goes up. You take care of it yourself. Now I'm going to hear your counterclaim very, very fast.
okay, my counterclaim is that my son's 16. Mr. Diaz harassed him at work.
How did he harass you at work?
Well, I was walking to go to work, and
When?
it was a few weeks after.
Few weeks?
Or the week after, like the next week, next Saturday.
You have a difficulty with time. A week? 2 weeks? What is it?
Like a week after, the next Saturday.
Go ahead.
And then I was walking, and he saw me and cornered me and said that I need to handle this man-to-man and not to be, which means...
Go ahead.
And I told him I can't talk to you, handle this with my mom. She told me she will handle this. And he still kept going, and I told him I can't do this, and I just walked away to go to work.
And
that was it. I just went to work.
And what else?
He would still come to the fund center and ask for money and start.
When? Well, so far we're talking about a week later when your mother said, I can't handle this now. So now nobody's handling it, and it's a week later. When else did he harass you?
It was probably the next day, Sunday.
No. Let me explain something to you. If he doesn't remember the date, it couldn't have made much of an impression on him, madam. Do you understand?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
If your daughter had taken the car, and if she had made the vast majority of her car payments, but was late a couple of times, you would not have repossessed the car, right?
No, I would have.
No.
I would have taken the car back.
I don't think you would have.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jose Diaz Garcia says co-worker 16-year-old Edgar Manjarres sideswiped his side view mirror. Edgar and his mother, Daniela Torres, are countersuing for harassment and threats.
Now, you have to pay Mr. Garcia for his mirror. Mr. Garcia could have been more understanding if you were having difficulties at home with a husband who was ill. However, he's not a member of your family, so if he chooses not to be more understanding, I can't legally fault him. It's your son's responsibility. He did the wrong thing, I have a feeling he wasn't standing around waiting for security. I have a feeling that security came upon him. That's what I think. I think this baloney of him standing around waiting for somebody to come is just that, a lot of baloney, because he didn't call his boss right away and say, I'm going to be late. I'm waiting here for security. He didn't call his boss until security came upon him and got him. That's what he just told me. So I can understand Mr. Garcia's frustration. Should he have approached a 16-year-old? Probably not. But since your son couldn't even remember whether it was a week later or 2 weeks later, it clearly didn't make that much of an impression on him. You owe Mr. Garcia $306.73. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He deserved to get paid for his damage, but he didn't have to call my son up and cornered him.
This is the first time I heard that. I said that to him, but I never said anything to him.
I saw the mirror on the floor. I don't know if it was damaged already.
All of us asking just to pay, and that was it.
He was harassing my son, and he still is.
I believe the parents.
Teresa Smith is suing her neighbors, Anel DeSaint and Stephen Pellegrino, for vet bills she incurred while caring for their dachshund.
Miss Smith, you and the defendants were neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time that you made an agreement with the defendants to doggy sit for their dog while they were
yes,
going
I did,
away
Your
on
Honor.
vacation. However, the dog got sick and you took the dog to the vet. And the dog required some serious intervention, which the vet did. And Mr. Sent and Mr. Pellegrino refused to pay the vet bill. They say that they did not authorize you to take their dog to the vet. The dog was that sick. They should have put the dog down, right?
Yes.
You paid the vet bill. You want the money back.
Yes, Your Honor, please.
What day did you start to take care of the dog?
I started to take care of the dog on a Tuesday.
You remember the date?
Let me look at my papers, please.
Sure. While she's looking, where were you going?
Going to San Diego. It was on June 5th.
How long were you going to be away?
3 days.
Tell me what kind of dog you had.
It was a Dachshund, I think,
What do you mean, dachshund, you think?
because the neighbor gave it to us. It was a mutt, basically.
How old was it when you got it?
We don't know. We got it from our neighbor, and they gave us a couple dogs because, I don't know, we just took it for the kids.
Whose kids?
Our kids.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Do you work?
Yes, I'm a sign directional.
What is that?
Well, you know, the people that hold a sign on the corner, and they tell you where the new homes are being sold.
And what do you do?
I'm in construction.
So a neighbor gave you 2 dogs.
The first one, it was starting to get sick, so we had taken it to the vet. And the vet said that you should have it put down because it had a bad liver. So a little bit later, after that, the neighbor had to get rid of some more dogs. And so they asked us if we wanted another dog.
Was it a puppy or was it a grown dog?
Yeah, it was still a puppy. Yeah.
And you had it for a month.
Yes.
Your 3-year-old like it?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it housebroken?
No.
No.
Were you taking your children with you to San Diego?
Yes.
Where were you leaving the puppy?
We left it at our house with a bowl of food, and we asked if she can
Just
come
a second.
over.
At your house in a bowl of food, but the dog isn't housebroken.
Well, in the
We have a-
outside.
we have a
yard.
fenced-off area with a
fenced-off
yard.
yard.
So you were leaving the puppy outside?
Yes.
Is that where the puppy stayed when you were home?
Yes.
Yes.
It has a dog house out there.
And you live in California?
Yes.
And this was in June.
Not cold weather.
Yeah, it wasn't cold weather at all.
So what happened, Miss Smith?
So I went over to take care of the dog. The first day I got there, its water dish was basically just the cup off the top of a thermos, and it was completely dry. So I filled it up, and the dog drank like it had had water in almost days. And it just drank and drank and drank and drank, and it didn't touch its food. I went back that evening. I bought another water dish for it, and made sure it had plenty of water. It still didn't touch its food. This went on until Thursday. It never touched its food. I even went over there one day and I even put down a can of canned dog food, because usually because it's stinky, a dog will eat it. And he didn't touch it. By the time I went back that evening, it was just a dried, hard lump. So Thursday, I was able to go over, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just lonely, missing the family, so I'll spend some time with him. And he just drug himself out where he was sleeping, and you could see all of his bones by then, and his nose was dry and warm.
Okay, so what did you do when you saw the dog in that condition?
Well, when I saw the dog that was that sick, I thought, this dog is going to die. And before they had left, I had asked them, before you leave, do you have an emergency phone number? And they refused to give me one, because they just
They didn't give you one.
Right.
They didn't refuse, they just didn't give you one.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I took the dog to the vet, so horribly sick.
You have the vet report?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Can I say something?
Sure.
How can the dogs be in bones within 3 days that we were gone?
I don't know, I'm not an expert. I'm going to read what the expert says.
Okay.
Well, the vet said your dog is very dehydrated and lethargic, raspy, lung sounds bilateral, Parvo. Dog had parvo. That's a
that's how
very
the-
serious diagnosis.
That's how the dog would get sick, so skinny so fast, it would be throwing
That's
up.
a very serious diagnosis. That's how it got so sick. That should answer your question. On what date did you get home?
On the 8th.
And she told you that the dog was in the...
Well, there was a note on our door.
That the dog was in intensive
Yes.
care. So what did you do?
I called her and she told me the dog was in intensive care and basically it was going to cost like a lot of money to keep it there every day, so we called the pound. And we told them, well, is there any way we can take the dog off life support because we cannot afford this? As bad as it seems, we would probably have utilized it. But they told us we couldn't get the dog out of the pet shelter because they didn't have no paperwork that it was our dog. They only had paperwork from her. And we called her and I told her, well, we were going to have to utilize the dog. And she didn't answer or say anything about it. So then we called the pound again and we told them, well, is there any way we can get this dog? And then they said Teresa already picked the dog up. And then we haven't heard from her for around 6 months. We haven't talked to her.
Just a second. The dog got sick before you came home. And it wasn't as a result of any negligence on her part. The dog had parvo. What would you expect her to do?
Well, she already knew that we didn't have money.
No, not what she knew, not what she surmised. What would a reasonable person, under the circumstances, be expected to do when a dog that's left in their care is clearly violently ill and they can't get in touch with the dog's owner? What would you expect them to do?
Yeah, I understand that. She had no number to reach us. The thing was that when the dog was released, we tried to get a hold of him and maybe put the bill under our name so we could pay payments on that dog. And we couldn't get a hold of her.
Your wife just told me you wanted to put the dog in the pound to have it put down.
Well,
That's what your wife told me.
At this point, I really didn't want to hassle with my neighbors, hassle with the neighbors. So I kind of wanted to say, okay, the dog's already in the pound. What is done is done. She was just trying to be a good neighbor by taking care of the dog, and taking it there. If it got sick, I would have took someone else's dog to the pound.
Absolutely right.
To the vet also. The thing was, when the dog was released, she had never contacted us and not returned our dog to us and said, here's a bill, can you pay this bill? Trying to be neighborly instead of just taking us straight to court.
She didn't take you straight to court. This happened in June.
Well, we haven't seen the dog in 6 months.
We have tried to talk to her and I had left messages. I went to her door and no one had answered.
Did you go to the vet and say, I will assume responsibility for this bill?
They didn't even want to talk.
No, listen to me. I will assume responsibility for this bill. This is my dog. All she had to do was say that because she didn't want your dog. She didn't steal your dog. Come on, folks. What you said to me initially was correct, that you would have said, we don't have the money for this.
Exactly.
Put the dog down. Don't make excuses.
Right.
And all I said to you was, under the circumstances, since she had no way to contact you, she acted appropriately in taking the dog to the vet and providing whatever care the vet said the dog needed in order to survive. Because otherwise, you would be standing on that side, and you know what you'd be telling me? My children loved the dog, and she didn't take good care of it, and we would have paid the vet bill. She should have taken the dog to the vet. Instead, she let the dog die.
We would not have.
No?
I would have, if she would have came to me with a vet bill, I would have taken care of that vet bill.
Well, good. She came to you with a vet bill now.
But she
Judgment
never
for the
returned our
plaintiff an amount
dog
of
to us.
$550. That's all. Step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Step out.
She would have definitely paid for that bill.
I had contacted him. I told him the dog was in the vet,
And I would have definitely got my dog back.
and he responded, if I had been here, I would have let the dog...
You were having a party?
It was more like a get-together. I wouldn't say it was a huge party.
How many people were at the house?
8, I believe.
8, including you and your husband?
My husband wasn't there at that time. Including me, it was about 8.
But your husband was also present in the house that night?
Yes, he came in around 2 a.m.
And he was a co-worker of yours?
Yes.
Where do you work, sir?
We work at a place called Nielsen Media Research.
How long have you worked together?
About 2 months now. We started at the exact same time. We were in the same training class, and that's how we got to be acquainted with one another.
Where did you work before that, Mr. Massey?
Actually, right before this, I worked at a place called Publishers Printing for 2 or 3 months. But the drive, I don't drive, and my mom was having to take me, and it was just too much trouble. This place is like 1 mile from the sometimes.
Great. Okay, Miss Mason, tell me about the theft from your house.
That night when I had went to bed, the money was on my bookcase. I woke up in the morning, I'm going to say about 8:30. He had come in my room. He had stayed in our guest room because he had just fallen asleep there. And he came in and we were talking.
And where was your husband?
He was downstairs doing laundry.
Go ahead.
And I had just, gotten up out of my bed and I went downstairs to get a sweatshirt. But when I had went down the stairs, my money was there. I saw my bookcase, which was right next to my bedroom door. I saw it. And when I came back up, he had met me on the top of my stairs. So I didn't go back into my room before we left. And when I came back home, my money was gone.
Came back home when?
From dropping him off, at taking him home.
And what time was that?
Between 10 and 10:30 a.m.
How many people live in your home?
Me, my husband, and my son.
How old is your son?
He's 4.
Okay. I read your complaint very carefully, Miss Mason. Your complaint says, by 4 a.m. everyone was gone, so I went up to my room. I made sure that the $500 I had been saving for a cell phone and Christmas shopping was still nudged between the book and a box of magic erasers. The money was folded in half, and the corner was visible to the eye.
Yes.
This says you did this at 4 o'clock in the morning, not at 8 o'clock in the morning when you said he came into your room.
I did. I checked my money at 4. That's when I went to bed, and I got up at 8, and it was still there.
Well, you don't say that you checked it here at 8. You said that you checked it at 4. I didn't understand, Madam, why anyone would have a party at their house and leave money at a place where you would see the money if you were hiding it. If you're hiding money, you hide money so that you don't see it. You put it in a certain place so it would be safe, right?
Yes.
So I didn't understand why you would put it someplace where it would be safe and let a corner of the money stick out.
It wasn't so much that I was hiding it from anybody. Nobody should have been in my room.
All right, let's move on. So what you're saying is the reason you believe that the defendant stole your money is because he had access to it, and as far as you knew, he was the only one who was there in between the times that you saw it, present and missing.
Yes.
You have any other proof that he stole your money?
My mother had spoken with him on the phone.
Good morning.
Your daughter says that you spoke to the defendant about this.
I did, Your Honor.
May I interject for a moment, Judge?
No.
Okay. But I was saying...
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I spoke to the defendant about 3 or 4 days after that. I said to him, I know you stole the money out of the home. He said I didn't. He denied it. I kept telling him, you did take that money out of that home. He said that he did not take it, but he did.
Okay. Did he say anything else?
No. He just told me he did.
Okay, man, when this woman called me, first of all, she never identified herself as Laura's mom.
I don't care. Why are you responding so? The woman didn't inculpate you at all in this crime. Why are you so insistent upon responding?
Okay, it's just that she called up and told me she was a police officer and said that she was, this and that.
She has difficulty.
Clearly.
You have been arrested, Mr. Massey?
Yes.
For what?
DUIs.
How many?
3. That's why I don't drive. I walk to work.
Is that why you don't drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than DUIs, have you ever been arrested for anything else?
I have.
Is not an answer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The drug, like marijuana.
When?
2004.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
So, you drink too much and you smoke a little marijuana?
Well, I did.
You did? You don't anymore?
No.
Ever been arrested for theft?
Nope, never.
What kind of money do you earn?
$8.50 an hour.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom, because when I got my DUIs, I had to go to jail for a little while, so I had to move back with my mom. I'd owned a house and everything else, but, that just, you get locked up, you lose that stuff.
Okay. Miss Mason, it's possible that Mr. Massey took your money. It's possible, but you have to prove it.
Well, he did admit it to my mom.
No, that's not what she said at all. She said he kept denying it. Your mother never.
He admitted it.
I was on a 3-way phone call with
members.
Listen
to me. She testified.
Yes.
I heard her. You have to have proof
Yes.
that he's a thief. Now, it's possible that he took your money. It's also possible that somebody else who was there took your money.
No.
Well, according to you, you had at least 8 people coming in and out of your house. That's what happens.
Yes.
Sometimes money gets taken. And it is possible that Mr. Massey is one of the people who was there took your money. But there's insufficient proof for me to feel comfortable to label him a thief. Thank you. That's all. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her husband came home, caught her in bed with another dude when I was there.
My husband knows what I do. I'm not worried about it.
She was fall down drunk at the end of the night.
I think he's been smoking a little bit too much.
There's real wacky stuff going on.
A little more too many brain cells might be completely dead.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estes versus French. Step forward, please.
Patricia Estes is suing neighbor Lori French for the cost of a peacock and for damage to her property.
Miss Estes, you claim that Miss French's dogs killed your pet peacock.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated. And Miss French says that there is absolutely no proof that her dogs killed your pet peacock. You live in a relatively rural area. There are lots of animals that are the same. Okay. When did this allegedly happen?
It's March the 3rd of this year.
Was the peacock in an enclosed fence?
Yes. Let me show you, give you a copy of the map and show
Yes.
you on our map.
Bert, could I have a copy of Miss Estes'
And
map,
Mrs.
please?
French, if she wants to.
I love people who are prepared. Could you give her a copy too so she can follow along?
Sure. Again, you're welcome.
Good.
I live at the end of a dirt road, and this is my house here. I'm on 5 acres. And there's a fence around my yard, the inner yard. Mrs. French's dogs, they live 2 parcels down. It's not like we're right next to each other. And my neighbor across the street, who I have today as a witness, that saw what happened, and she lived right across from me.
Okay, got it. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
My name's Corey Kell.
Tell me what you observed on the 3rd of March.
I take my kids to school at around 8:30, 8:45 every morning. Came right back, and when I came back, Mrs. French's dog had her peacock in its mouth.
That is not a true statement that she's just made.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
And later today,
Did you call your father to ask him to bail you out? It's not an answer.
I didn't.
She didn't ask me. She
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Estes claims her peacock was killed by Lori French's dog.
What kind of dog was it that you saw attack her bird?
I don't know what kind. It's a mixed dog. It looks like a cross between a German Shepherd and a Lab. It's short-haired.
And there's no question in your mind that the dog that you saw, you had seen before?
100% sure. On Thanksgiving of last year, we had our family up, we took a walk, and we actually met Miss French, and I met all of her dogs at that time, which was 4 months prior to this. So her dogs are always running up and down our road, getting in the way, trying to get in my yard every time I leave my house.
So the dogs are out. Why do your dogs get out, Miss French?
My dogs are in my yard. I have never seen my dogs out of my yard. She's saying that my dogs are in her yard with her 4 vicious Labradors.
No, that's not what she's saying at all.
She said that she just saw my dogs in her yard.
She said they're running up and down the road.
Well, I beg to differ that.
Okay.
I have some pictures that shows their house with the gate open and their dogs in front of the house.
Can I see it, please?
Inside their yard.
Can I see it, please? Were your dogs picked up by animal control on December 7th, Miss French? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Where were they picked up?
I do not know. On that morning at 7 a.m., it was about 22 degrees that morning. I had brought my dogs into the home, and I had consequently gone to work about 10 o'clock that morning. When I returned, there was a note on my gate that said my dogs had been picked up by animal
Who
control.
else lives in your house?
I have 2 daughters, well, 3
How old
daughters
are they?
actually. 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and my husband.
So there are other adults in the house?
Yes.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Well,
Miss French, somebody let them out.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
Correct.
Okay. So we know that your dogs have gotten out, and it's probably not the first time they've gotten out. Somebody in your household isn't responsible, Miss French. You're responsible for this peacock.
Do I get to...
You aren't home. You don't know what happened. Only she knows. She's
Yes,
an
but I
eyewitness.
do have some, well, her house, according to this, is not even in the correct position.
I don't care whether it's not in the position. I have to rely on what she says. There is no reason for me to disbelieve what she says to me, because after she saw it, she reported it to the plaintiff, so there is no reason for me to disbelieve her. You, on the other hand, were not home. Now, I'm prepared to hear you.
Okay.
I'm prepared to hear you, but I'm telling you that I believe what she says, that she saw a dog that she has identified as your dog, which she has seen numerous times because she has spoken to you. You've introduced her to your dogs, according to her, and I absolutely believe her.
Okay.
So I'm
the woman I
prepared to
met
hear-
was a blonde, so
listen to me. You know, I used to be a blonde too.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go.
I found the neighbor's boxer in my yard on that Saturday, December 9th, chasing my livestock and my horses. I yelled at her. She left the yard. 15
Which
minutes
neighbor are you
later,
talking
the
about?
neighbor that's in between our 2 homes. 15 minutes later, I come back and that dog is still chasing my livestock. I had to physically take her to the neighbor's home and put her
What
back
does that
in the yard.
have to do with this incident? This is not a boxer. A boxer is not a husky.
I'm saying that I have livestock that have disappeared. Out of my yard, she's saying that she's... I would like to
Miss
know
French.
even what dog she's accusing of doing this, because I haven't even got that.
Well, maybe she'll tell you. Go ahead.
The one that looks like a German Shepherd Lab mix with short hair.
You have a picture of that dog?
It's in the pictures there that you have, Your Honor.
Did you give her the and identify the dog that she's talking about?
This one right there. Yeah, the short-haired one. I also have a report.
This one? Okay. Show it to the defendant. Can I see the report from animal control while you're showing that to the defendant?
Yes, she said that I've admitted to animal control that my dogs did this. I have not spoken to animal control, even after numerous attempts to contact them.
Animal control says that they returned several times. No one was at home. That's to your house. And each time they were there, they left a notice. According to the animal control person, I have been unable to make contact with the suspect dog owner to resolve this matter. In any event, I'm satisfied, Miss French, that it was your dog that was responsible for the dead peacock.
Well, I have excuse me.
Miss French, your dog killed the peacock.
Well, I have incidents documented. Two dogs that look very similar to my dogs that have roamed this neighborhood.
And that's unfortunate for your dogs. Your dogs were just picked out of a lineup. What was the cost of the peacock?
$450 for a male peacock with full tail feathers.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Peregrine versus Fleener, step forward, please.
Terry Peregrine is suing his daughter, Heather Fleener, for unpaid rent and bail money.
Mr. Peregrine, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that she owes you some money. She
Yes.
owes you money for rent and for bailing her out of jail.
That's correct.
Your daughter says that she fell on some financial hard times, that you agreed to help her out, that you were being a good father, and that but for your wife, who is not her mother, we would not be standing here today. Right?
Yes.
How old are you, Miss Fleener?
32.
You married?
Yes.
Is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You have children?
Yes, I have 2.
Your father, according to his complaint, let you move into a home that was bequeathed to you and a sibling. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When you needed a place to live, he bought out the sibling. So he now had the house. He allowed you and your husband and children to move in there at a modest rent of $400 a month, which didn't even, according to him, cover the mortgage. The agreement was that you were going to pay him the $400 a month. So far, is that correct?
Yes.
When did you move in?
I moved in the end of February 2006.
Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, so far.
When did you stop paying rent?
I believe the last month I paid was November 2006.
So you didn't pay December, January, and February. 3 months?
Yes.
Why?
I lost my job.
What about him?
He was in a car accident in December, so he hasn't been able to work since then.
You stopped paying in November?
Right.
Well, what were you doing, anticipating the car accident?
No, I wasn't anticipating the car accident by any means.
If you stopped paying in November, you didn't pay November's rent.
You're right.
And if he was in a car accident in December, that doesn't make sense to me, Miss
I guess
Fleener.
I started buying Christmas presents for my kids and decided
Well, that's irresponsible.
You're right.
That's irresponsible. Everybody pays rent or a mortgage or something. You don't buy presents until you pay your bills.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You're supposed to pay rent too.
Yeah.
What do you do all day?
Take care of my kids.
What does she do all day?
She worked.
For whom?
I worked for Olin Mills. I'm a photographer.
How much do you earn?
I no longer work for them, no. Not anymore.
Well, who do you work for?
I'm not working right now. He started working a couple weeks ago.
He says he stays home and takes care of his kids.
Not anymore.
Well, that's what I did when she was working. I stayed home. But through them 3 months we didn't pay rent, that's when I was looking for...
I was buying Christmas presents. How many months do they owe you for rent?
They owe those 3, and they also they were behind 2 months half the rent for March and April of '06.
March and April.
I only received $200 for those months.
Why?
That, when we first moved in, neither of us had a job then. That was before I started working, so I didn't get caught up.
When did you get arrested?
In January.
For what?
When I was taking pictures, I was falsely accused of giving pictures away for free, so I was arrested for theft.
Is that case still pending?
Yes.
Did you call your father to ask him to bail you out?
I called him because we didn't have a phone at home to go and let my husband know what was going on.
You mean you didn't ask your father to bail you out? Is not an answer.
I didn't, I guess.
Your
How
Honor,
much was the bail?
$505, and she didn't ask me, she begged me.
What did she say?
She was crying, and she said, "Dad, please bail me out of jail. I'll promise you I'll give you the money back as soon as I can."
You owe your father $2,105. Any reason why you shouldn't pay him?
Well, I believe that there are other people that owe him much more than what I owe him, which would be my little brother that isn't here today with me, but...
Yeah?
And he doesn't ask him for any money back.
And he don't have no kids, neither.
Let me explain something to you. If he wants to shower one of his children with gifts and money, that's his prerogative. You want to know why? It's his money. He can do whatever he wants with his money. Just like when you earn your money, you can do whatever you want with your money. And you, sir, when you earn your own money, can do whatever you want with your money. And if you want to buy your 12-year-old child an Xbox, and if you want to buy your 5-year-old child nothing, that's your prerogative. That's what you can do with your money. can tell somebody else what they can do with your money. Not that I necessarily believe you, but if that's the excuse that you've set up in your own mind with his help, because he evidently thinks, well, because he made 2 children, that gives him some sort of a license and prerogative to take money from people. That gives you no license at all. Anything makes babies. Fish make babies, dogs make babies, cats make babies, elephants make babies, people make babies. That doesn't make them a father. You know what makes somebody a father? When they take care of their babies. Then they become a father. Not when somebody else takes care of their babies by paying for a roof over their head. That makes them a father. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of the children that you make. You owe your father $2,105 and stop making excuses or letting him make excuses for you. Do you understand me? Yes, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Parties are excused. You may step back. Out the back door to your right, please.
The final straw, just, I think, ignoring me,
Well, I guess I do owe my dad the money.
ignoring requests and avoiding me
I guess from now on, pay my rent and
when I would try and get money from her.
take care of my bills.
I said, give me anything you can give me and we'll work the rest of it out.
I think we'll be all right.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Sheindlin. Step forward.
Douglas Clark is suing his ex-girlfriend, Marlena Sheindlin, for stealing his belongings when she secretly moved out of his home.
Mr. Clark, the defendant, was your girlfriend. She moved in with you a couple of years ago, lived with you. One of her children, she has a couple of other children that came to visit periodically because she shares custody of those children, according to what I read, with another ex-husband. She lived with you for 2 years, and you came home one day and you found your home stripped.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
She moved out and, according to you, took property, and the property was yours. The defendant says that she only took what was hers, and she had very good reason for leaving without giving you appropriate notice or doing things in an orderly fashion. So I have a few questions. How long did you live together, Mr. Clark?
We lived together for 18 months, Your Honor.
From when to when?
From July 2005 until February 2007.
And Mr. Clark, I have specific reasons for asking these questions. Between July of 2005 and February 2007, did the defendant ever call the police and allege any domestic violence in your home?
No, she didn't.
Police were never called to your home.
She should have, though.
I'm not speaking to you. From July of 2005 until February of 2007, were you employed on a regular basis?
I was employed by 2 jobs, Your Honor.
And between July of 2005 and February of 2007, was the defendant employed?
She was employed for 2 months out of the 18 months she lived with me.
Which 2 months?
Right before Christmas of 2006.
Where were you working in December of 06, Ms. Sheindlin?
Maid Pro.
What was your starting day of work?
October 05 until December
05. And for the remainder of the time that you and the defendant lived together, you were unemployed?
Correct.
Were you working on a full-time basis or a part-time basis?
It was full-time. And the reason for leaving, why I left too, also, is my daughter became quite ill. And it was very stressful for myself and, you know, just going through it with working and also...
Were you working at the time that you moved in with Mr. Clark?
No, I was not.
And your daughter wasn't ill?
No.
Right. That was in July of 05?
Correct.
And in August of 05?
I was not working also.
And your daughter wasn't ill?
Correct.
Okay. When you left in February of 2007, you left without notice?
Correct.
You had rented an apartment?
Correct.
What day did you leave?
It was February 28th, I believe.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. It was a Wednesday.
On February 27th, where did you sleep?
In what bedroom? At the house?
Yes.
I slept in my daughter's room.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
When did you stop sharing your room with Mr. Clark?
Probably a good year after being with him.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Well, I assume there was some reason that you were no longer living as a couple after a year.
Yes.
You want to tell me what that was?
Things just went sour when she started going out Friday nights. She started going out Friday nights to a bar and she never knew when to come home.
Well, so you were aware that there were problems.
Yes.
Did you ever discuss the problems? Did you go for counseling about the problems?
We discussed the problem, but things didn't change because every Friday night while I was working 2 jobs, she still went out partying. And
What furniture did she take from the house, sir?
furniture she took from my house were the 3-bedroom sets I purchased, along with all the
Just a second. 3-bedroom sets.
along with all the dressers, 3 TVs, Christmas tree, 2 wicker chairs.
Okay. And the 3 bedroom sets were purchased because her children would come to visit.
Exactly.
Okay. They have to be returned. Listen to me carefully. Carefully. There are ways to take care of business and there are ways not to take care of business, Ms. Sheindlin. And what you did was you lived with this man for a year and a half. It didn't work out. You moved into his home with one of your children, and according to you, 2 of your children came periodically for visits. According to you, you worked marginally. Less than 1/4 of the time that you lived together, you were employed. So you were not contributing to the household, and it is clear.
I contributed.
It is clear you were not contributing financially to the household. Do you have children living with you?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
So you, your daughter, and 2 other children were living there and were being supported for the most part by Mr. Clark. In my judgment, you owed him a sit down and saying to him, I'm leaving. I'm leaving, and I believe that I want to take this property with me for this reason. I believe you bought the 3 bedroom sets for my children as gifts.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
If in fact Douglas was that type of person where you could sit down with him, that's the way it should have been done. He was very abusive, that's the way I needed to do it. I could not sit because I feared my children's safety and my own, because when he became drunk, he was abusive.
Then
many times.
Then you take your daughter, listen to me, madam, then you take
cannot
your
say
daughter and leave. If you were legitimately afraid for your own safety and the safety of your daughter, then you don't do anything to antagonize him, like taking the property that you took that you didn't buy. You didn't buy it.
They were gifts.
No, they weren't.
They were gifts.
No, they weren't gifts.
Oh, yes, they were.
No, well, that's why you're here in court, for me to make a judgment. And there is no question that when he purchased the bedroom sets, he bought it for your children when they were in his home. That's true, but there is no question in my mind, madam, that he did not say to you, just put on your ears and listen, I'm buying these bedroom sets. If it doesn't work out between us, you can take all the bedroom sets and all the furniture and leave with... There's no question he didn't say that. He said, I'm buying these things. I want the kids to be comfortable when they're here. And I assume that we're going to be together. But he didn't say to you, when you want to leave, you can take all that stuff with you. You got it? Because that doesn't make sense. You have to return it with a marshal in 5 days. 3 bedroom sets. Now let's get to the television sets.
The television sets, Your Honor, I have a duplicate copy of the television sets that are similar to the television sets.
No. I want to know when they were purchased and by whom.
The television sets were purchased in November of '04.
Before she moved in.
8 months before she moved in, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Ms. Sheindlin?
Yes, we were getting the children's rooms ready. Yes.
Fine. They go back. They go back with a marshal in 5 days. I will prepare an order. You can go and have it picked up with the marshal. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, Your Honor. But will the bedroom sets be in the same condition as they were when they left my premises?
I certainly hope so, sir, because Ms. Sheindlin says she was afraid of you. It would be very foolish of her to return the property in damaged condition. If she does, we will give you a tape of this case, and you take her to small claims court, and you sue her again. But don't bring her to me. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
We will prepare an order. The only thing is you're going to have to go and get the stuff. You have no right to take that stuff, madam. You had no right to take his television sets, which you didn't purchase, or the bedroom furniture that was purchased for your children when they were living in his house. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When you're giving gifts, you take them back. You're allowed to take them back.
I didn't buy the furniture for her kids. I bought a 4-bedroom house. I had 1 master bedroom. I had to fill the other 3 bedrooms up for her kids when they came.
He doesn't care about furniture. He's never cared about furniture. He came to that house with absolutely zero, zilch, nothing.
Final straw for me is when she started going out, partying all night, not knowing when to come home.
I wasn't going out in 18 months. What was said in there was not even hardly anything of what had gone on.
Sometimes she came home at 7, 8 in the morning.
The whole thing is just ridiculous.
Enough's enough.
Yes.
According to your complaint, Zaki, you were in the locker room, and David came into the locker room. The 2 of you got into an altercation. It is your claim that there was a scuffle, but after you thought the whole thing was over, David came and pushed you. You fell over a bench. You chipped your front teeth. Your parents want David's parents to cover all your dental bills and pain and suffering in the amount of $5,000. That's what the case is about. David, your father says there was an argument, a fight. The fact that he chipped his tooth was a problem, but boys will be boys, and this was all a big accident, right?
Yes.
So why don't you start and tell me, first, what date did this altercation take place in the school?
October 19, 2006.
Had you ever had any trouble with David before?
No.
Now, why don't you tell me what happened, Zaki?
After PE, I walked into the locker room, and I was standing on the bench because I had the top locker to put in my locker combination, and then I heard David, he said, Zaki, you dark. And I said, shut up.
Just a minute. Now you're sort of talking fast so that I don't understand you. I got to the point where you were undoing your locker, and you heard what?
David called me dark.
David called you dark. And what did you say?
I said, shut up.
And then what happened?
He came over and said, say it in my face. So I said in his face, I said, shut up. Then I was bending down, and he choked me.
What were you bending down to do?
I told him to shut up in his face.
Oh, so you were standing on the bench, bending down, and told him, shut up, in your face, and he grabbed hold of your neck. Go ahead.
And then I pushed him away from me, and then he walked away with his friends. And I was getting ready to go back in my locker, so I was about to stand up on the bench to put in my locker combination. And then he pushed me, and I fell and chipped my teeth.
Okay. Now your version.
I was getting dressed in the locker room, and then Zaki came in, and then he started putting his locker combination, and then he told me that my mom was a B. So I told him to say that in my face. So I walked over.
So he said something nasty about your mother?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And then I told him to say it in my face, so he told me in my face, and then he grabbed me by my neck, and then in self-defense, I had pushed him over, and he tripped off the bench. He fell and hit his tooth on the floor.
Did you ever call him dark?
No.
I'd like to see the school report, please.
Here's the report from David, Zaki, and the witness.
Okay. One of the witnesses, sir, says that you said something bad about his mother. You know that?
I didn't know that.
Did you do that?
No.
Wouldn't excuse anything, sir, if you got your teeth knocked out, if it was his fault. But did you say anything nasty about his mother?
No.
So this witness is not telling the truth?
Yes.
But they took this statement from the witness right after the incident.
But can I tell you this? I don't say bad words. So I didn't say nothing about his mom, nothing.
Nothing?
No.
You think that you acted properly that day, sir?
Yes.
You do? You think you acted properly that day?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because I put my hands on another person.
Did you put your hands on him first?
No, ma'am.
Who put their hands on who first?
Zaki Johnson put his hands on me.
What did he do?
He choked me, so in self-defense, I had to defend myself and push him down.
He choked you how?
By putting his hands around my neck.
How many days were you suspended in school?
4 days.
And you?
1.
You had to think. You ever been suspended from school before?
Yes.
When was the last time before this that you were suspended from school?
In 5th grade when I was fighting.
What grade are you in now?
7.
How many days were you suspended for before?
1 day.
Ever been suspended from school?
No.
Now I'll see the fathers, please. Mr. Cooper, did you agree to pay the dental bills for Mr. Johnson?
No, I didn't agree to anything. I didn't sign anything.
I didn't
But he
ask
showed
you
me-
whether you signed anything, Mr. Cooper. I
Well,
asked you
Your Honor,
whether you said, those are the estimates, I'll pay for them.
No, I didn't agree to
What did
anything,
you
Your
say?
Honor. We were there to discuss the situation at hand with our 2 sons. And after we discussed that, then he showed me dental work or paperwork of his son. I looked at it. I didn't agree to anything.
What did you say?
I didn't say anything. I didn't agree to it.
Mr. Johnson, I'd like to hear your version of what happened in the school magnate's office.
Well, the meeting was pretty much about the incident that took place between our 2 sons.
Right.
It was involving the damages.
Well, tell me what Mr. Cooper indicated at that meeting.
The estimates that I could show Mr. Cooper at that time was not a full estimate because my son,
Just tell me what the estimates were and what Mr. Cooper said.
he agreed to pay for the damages.
And what was the estimate that you showed him?
At that time, it was a rough estimate of how much veneers would cost.
How much?
At that time, it was $4,300.
Did he show you an estimate for $4,300?
No, he didn't, Your Honor. It wasn't for $4,300, Your Honor.
No. Couldn't have been $4,300, sir, because your complaint says it's going to cost $2,900 to fix his teeth.
Estimates. He still needed root canal. He still needed to have things done. You got to talk, the veneers itself were $1,100 per veneer.
Your Honor,
There's no way in
that
the world I
day-
could have told him that. That's an estimate. I'm not a dentist.
Fine, just a second. So then what you're telling me is there was no agreement at that time by Mr. Cooper to pay any specific amount for your son's dental work because
No.
you couldn't show him any specific amount. Is that right?
No.
Correct. Okay. So they got into an altercation. They both behaved badly. The school determined that your son was 4 times as responsible as his son. Maybe they determined that, and maybe they figured that because he got 2 broken teeth, he already got punished enough, and that the 1-day suspension was enough. The school found that your son was in part responsible. Do you understand that, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And he was in part responsible, because I'm not sure whether I believe the whole story that he told me at all.
I have something else that I would like to give you as well. The school rules for damages that are incurred where parents are responsible. This is from the school.
Listen to me, sir. He's not responsible if I rule that your son was partially responsible.
Okay.
It's not his financial responsibility if I find that your son was as culpable as his son with regard to the injury that happened to your son. Do you understand?
Yes.
And I believe that your son was culpable, in part, having this fight in the school that day. I don't believe he is an innocent. Do you understand?
I don't either.
Fine. Then if he was not an innocent, why do you believe Mr. Cooper should be for all of the dental work, but for his pain and suffering? Why?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He drug himself out where he was sleeping, and you could see all of his bones by then. And
How can the dogs be in bones within 3 days that we were gone?
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 12-year-old Zaki Johnson says schoolmate David Cooper pushed him over a bench and chipped his teeth. David claims Zaki was trying to choke him.
Go ahead.
Based on the conversation that took place at the school between me and Mr. Cooper and our children both being there, he stated he was fully responsible.
No, that's not what you told me just a moment ago. Because a moment ago, I said to you, did you present him with a bill? And you said, I presented him with a bill for over $4,000. That was an estimate. As it turns out, your complaint here says $2,900. But you said to me, well, that was just an estimate. We didn't know what the dental work was going to be. And he cannot agree to pay for something that doesn't have a figure.
I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here.
We're not getting ahead of ourselves at all, Mr. Johnson. First thing you have to do is accept responsibility that your son is partially responsible for what happened that day. And if he's partially responsible for what happened that day, you are partially responsible as his father to pay for his dental work. Part of it. And Mr. Cooper, whose son is partially responsible for what happened to your son that day, will bear part of the responsibility, not all of it. And certainly not for pain and suffering.
Well, the question I have is, how could I give him an estimate when I don't know what the estimate outcome was? Only thing I could give him at that point is what the dentist gave me on what could happen. I couldn't give him this is 2 or 3 days after the accident that took place.
Mr. Johnson, if what you're saying is you're coming into court based on a contract, and the contract you had with Mr. Cooper was that whatever the dental work was, he would pay for it, right?
Yes.
That's the contract, whatever it was. And a contract has to have certain finite principles. It has to have an amount. It has to be a mutual understanding, especially when it's not in writing. So you're not coming to court here based upon a contract with him. You're coming to court based upon the fact that his son caused injury to your son. And what I am doing is I am apportioning that responsibility. I'm saying that part of that responsibility is yours because your son was partially responsible, and part of that responsibility is Mr. Cooper's because his son was partially responsible for getting into this chest-on-chest altercation that day. That's it. That's all. So now you're going to tell me what your out-of-pocket expenses were with the dentist.
$2,900 so far, with future work needing to be done.
Well, then, sir, you're going to have to come back.
Okay, no problem.
I mean, you can't sue if you don't know. As you said, it's only an estimate. You never know what it's going to be. Right now, the parameters of your exposure were $2,900. And I believe that your son, because I'm not buying his whole story, I'm also not buying his whole story. I believe that these two boys got into an altercation, and both of them have to learn that there are consequences for saying things that shouldn't be said, putting your hands on one another. Somebody usually gets hurt, and the one that gets hurt is not always the one that's right. So your responsibility, Mr. Cooper, is $1,450. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I feel as though that I shouldn't have to pay for anything.
I teach my son not to start things.
My son was the last man standing.
Just to finish him.
His son took the loss.
Big belief that I know my son did not put hands on him first.
But
Time. How long?
6 months, Your Honor.
And was that violation of probation? What was it for?
That was for a DUI.
Clearly not your first.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you and the defendant made up the following agreement. While you were incarcerated, the defendant was going to clean up your house where you had lived with your son. I assume this is the son.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the house is probably not fit for human beings with two men living there and not taking care of it. I assume that you knew that, and you told her that if she cleaned up the house and made it ready for renting, that when you got out of prison, you would move in with her and rent the house so that you would have some additional income. So far, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
The son was living in your house.
Yes.
The defendant and her daughter came to live in your house, and she did what she agreed to do, which was put your house in condition to be rented. Tell me what you did to get the house ready.
Your Honor, you're absolutely right. This house was a complete disaster. I had to have everything done to it. I had to have carpet cleaning. I had to have a maid come in and help clean the walls, the bathrooms. I had to have it painted.
How much of the house was painted?
The living rooms and the boys' bedroom.
Who paid for that?
The kitchen. I did.
Who paid for the renting of the dumpster and all that other stuff?
I have all the receipts right here.
Okay. And that has nothing to do with your labor?
Nothing to do with my labor.
Then you started to have problems with Mr. Russell's son. What kind of problems did you have?
He was doing very bad in school. He was getting D's and F's. Ditching.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stealing things, stealing cell phones, stealing money.
From whom?
People at the school, I guess. I assume his friends.
Jan down. Okay, so he was having some trouble. All right, so this is what happened, Mr. Russell. The defendant said, and he went to live with whom?
My grandparents.
You told Ms. Haig that this wasn't going to work out, that because she couldn't live with your son, you couldn't live with her, and that she would have to move back to her house, and you weren't going to rent your house because you were going to have to move back into your house with your son when you got out of jail. So far correct?
Somewhat correct, yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Haig left, and it is your claim that she wrote out 2 checks from your checkbook without your permission,
Correct.
and you want that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant says, whatever checks I wrote out with your permission. I used them to cover certain expenses that I had. So let us assume, Mr. Russell, that Ms. Haig has bills in order to put your house in order. Did you compensate her for that?
Yes, Your Honor, somewhat.
How?
I did.
Not somewhat. Did you
yes.
give her $3,000?
Not the whole $3,000, but close to it before I went in.
How much?
I gave her approximately $2,000 cash, bought her a new garage door which she needed, and a trailer hitch of hers to be installed in my truck to haul her trailer to my house, which she said she would leave into my truck if I paid that money, which she decided not to do.
So what you're telling me is, forgetting all the other fluff, you gave her $2,000 in cash.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you $2,000 in cash?
Approximately $2,000, I would say.
Okay. Tell me how much she wrote out of your checking account with the
She wrote 2 checks for $5,450. There was 2 checks, one for $4,800 and one for $650.
Did you give her permission to write out either one of those checks?
No, I did not. I asked her to mail me a blank check, and I would fill it out and give it back to her, which I've got proof.
For what?
For approximately $600, $700 for her efforts, just so we can call it even and depart on good terms.
Mr. Russell, you're making a few things up as we go along, sir. The way you said that to me, just for her efforts. What efforts are you talking about?
Her hauling stuff to the dump. She claimed cleaning the house, painting it.
Well, that's a big job, sir. How long did that take her to do?
I'm not really sure. She had one of my friends helping her do it at
Well,
no
that's
cost.
good. How long did it take you to put the house in order?
Over 2 months.
Was she there 2 months?
I don't believe she was living at my house because I was calling her when I was in jail at her house, and she was answering. So she was living at her house, but going to my house to do work.
Okay, so that would be the $650.
Approximately, yes. I was going to write her a check for it, but she decided to do it herself.
Okay. Now, you wrote one check for $4,800. What was that for?
The $4,800 he asked me to write because he was trying to get out of jail in a half time, and he wanted to say he had hardship. He needed to get out and support us, and he wasn't allowed to have any money in his bank. So I sent him a blank check, and the jail would not allow him to have it, and he told me to cash it and get the money out of his bank.
So then what did you do with it?
I kept $2,800 and I put $2,000 in his
What did you do
safe.
with the $2,800?
Paid my bills.
Oh, well, then you owe him that. You can't have it both ways. Do you understand? If he gave you $2,000 in cash and you took $2,800 to satisfy those bills, you can't have it twice. Are you following me?
Yes.
Good. Did she give you any money?
No, Your Honor, she didn't give me anything back.
Where did you put the money?
In his safe inside his trailer. And I took his trailer, all his stuff back over to his house, and I gave the keys to his parents.
Your Honor, it's a little firebox with a broken lock, doesn't even work.
It's not
a
little.
safe. It's very small, 1 foot by 1 foot, and there was nothing in it but my birth certificate and my son's birth certificate. The trailer wasn't broken into. It was all locked up. She didn't put anything back.
Right. I believe that. I believe she didn't put anything back. You want to know why she didn't put anything back? She didn't put anything back because she was very angry with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I understand that she was angry, but she can't steal your money.
Also,
I didn't steal his money.
Yes, you did.
No.
Also, in cleaning up my house, she threw away many things which she didn't have permission to throw away.
Well, that's your problem. You should have been more specific. You should have put red dots on everything that you wanted to keep. You told her to clean up your mess, and she cleaned up your mess.
The whole house should have been thrown in the dump.
But you can't steal his money if you're
I didn't
angry.
steal his money, Your Honor.
Yes,
I
you
put it
should.
in there.
I don't believe
If
you.
anybody stole it, it's his
I don't
son.
believe you. Somebody that after spending 2 months cleaning up somebody else's, painting and cleaning and getting people over there and going to the dumpster and making 10 trips to the dumpster, and all of a sudden he says to you, sorry, babe, when I come out, it's over. And you say, all right, sweetheart, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to cash this check, I'm going to leave it all for you, just take what I think is mine. You took what you thought you were entitled to. You can't do that. Things didn't work out, they didn't work out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to end up with nothing.
And later today,
What kind of drugs were you abusing?
Meth.
That's serious stuff.
Very serious.
Brian Russell says his ex-girlfriend Patty Haig stole his personal belongings and money while he was in jail. Patty claims everything she took was with Brian's permission.
Now, are you keeping the place neat?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm attempting to as best I can with 2 men there.
What does that mean? Are you suggesting to me that men are innately slobs?
I don't know if all are, but we are.
Why? You don't look like a slob, Mr. Russell. Look how nicely you're dressed. Got a nice shirt, you got a nice tie, your son's well dressed, he's got a nice clean shirt on, his hair is cut. As far as I can see, he doesn't have any piercings or anything else that I'm looking at, right?
I would consider my house very clean. If you walked in, you'd say it was probably so-so.
After I got done with it.
Yeah, well, didn't work out. Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to clean up after your man to end up with nothing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You've got to give him back his money. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,800. That's all. Step out.
All is excused. You may step out.
I think he's a little bit upset about his son not being there and us not being back together.
His grades were bad, but he actually improved them. He got 2 A's and 2 C's his last report card.
He doesn't clean up after himself. All I asked him to do was pick up after himself.
I was kind of dirty, but I was probably doing 300% better than I usually do.
Next time when I meet someone and I do fall in love, to be careful. Don't leave all your possessions and everything in their control. Be a little more careful and watch your money.
All parties in the matter of Hall versus Smith. Step forward.
Harriet Hall is suing the mother of her grandchild, 22-year-old Allie Smith, for the cost of care for her children after she failed a court-ordered drug test.
Miss Hall, you have a son.
Yes.
Your son made a baby with this lady.
Yes.
This lady had a child from another relationship.
Yes.
You get a call from this lady who's both my kids because I had a positive drug test. Is that right?
Yes.
And would you help me out and take my children because otherwise they're going to go into foster care? Yes. You say okay. And you took both her children, your grandchild and her other child. How old?
2.5.
How long did you have the children with you?
Till March 19th, 4 months.
For how many? 4 months.
4 months.
You want Miss Smith to pay support for that child, not your grandchild, but for the other toddler for the 4 months that you had him, boy?
Yes.
And Miss Smith says that there was never an agreement to pay you for either of the children, so she has no obligation to pay you. Is that your defense?
Yes.
You don't have to have an agreement with her.
She didn't ask for any money. She has never asked me for any money until last month when I got this thing in the mail saying that I owed her money.
You mean she never asked you for any support for
Never.
the child? What month did your 2 children go to live with Miss Hall?
December 6th of 2006.
What kind of drugs were you abusing?
Meth.
That's serious stuff.
Very serious.
Did you go into a residential drug treatment program?
No, ma'am. I went to outpatient treatment. I've been clean now for 13 months.
You working?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Great. Your 2 children with you?
Yes, ma'am.
You living on your own?
Yes, ma'am.
Who takes care of the children when you're working?
I have a daycare provider.
All that sounds right to you?
No.
You mean she's not working?
She is working.
She's taking care of her children? They live with her?
Yes.
She has her children in daycare when she's working?
Yes.
So what doesn't sound right to you?
That she wouldn't pay.
Well, I'm not talking about paying. I'm talking about the fact that 13 months later, she seems to be doing very well, right?
Yes.
Why all of a sudden, after 13 months, are you suing her?
Because she's working now and she can help pay me back for the support that I did on Aiden.
Okay. That's reasonable. Did you ever ask her to help you with the support?
Yeah, she said she would the day that I got the kids.
Well, she was pretty messed up. She was using very, very heavy drug. When she got the children back, did you discuss with her finances?
No, I haven't.
So when for the first time since she got the children back, was she aware of the fact that you wanted her to pay you back for some of the expenses for the child? Did you just serve her with a summons?
Yes.
Why?
Because I felt that she owed for the kids. I took them on extra visits for her. I've done a lot
I
for
understand
her.
that, but weren't you seeing your granddaughter?
Yeah, but she wouldn't let me have her anymore. Now just my son. I have to take my son to pick her up. I can't see her.
Why?
Because she doesn't like me, I guess. I don't know.
Why?
Because she would come to my house and she would throw little fits. She would call people and tell them that I had people living with me that I didn't have living with me. The only reason she did this with the summons is because I wouldn't let her son claim our daughter on his taxes.
You mean for last year?
For 2007. I had them for 9 months out of the year, and I didn't think that
Does he pay support?
Yes, he does.
How much does he pay?
About $400 a month.
Why don't you work something out with him so that 1 year you can claim it and 1 year he can claim it?
Maybe, yeah.
Well,
we
doesn't that
never
sound
even,
reasonable?
me and him discussed it, and we were fine with it. It was when she had come over and said that Gene was upset with me, so I don't know. Me and him would discuss it.
Your mistake is that I wouldn't have served her with a summons, since clearly you care for your granddaughter. You wanted to help her out, but you also wanted your granddaughter in a safe place. So that's what you're supposed to do as a grandmother, to make sure that your grandchild is safe. The fact that you took her other child was very nice of you. Why didn't your other child go with your mother?
Because my mother couldn't take them.
Couldn't take even one of them?
No.
Okay.
And also, she was my son's grandmother before my daughter was even born. If he walked into this courtroom today, he would definitely call her grandma.
Well, she took care of him.
Right.
Okay, you do understand that whether or not you had an agreement with her, you owe her for your son's necessaries. She's not seeking any money, but only for your son. So whether or not you had an agreement with her, the law says that you have to pay her for some of the child's necessary expenses.
Okay.
Where is the father of that child?
He's not in the picture.
Okay. How much do you claim that you spent on this child?
For rent.
Forget rent.
$2,200.
Tell me what it was for.
Okay, rent was $750.
Forget rent.
And December.
Listen to me. Did you move?
Okay. Yes, I moved from my mother's to my sister's because we didn't have enough bedrooms at my mom to deal with the kids. So I moved in with my sister.
You were living with your mother?
Yes, because I was taking care of her.
Tell me the living situation in your sister's house with you and the children. Where did everybody sleep?
Okay, Aiden had a bedroom upstairs, and Addison and I had a bedroom together upstairs. And we had use of the washer, the dryer, the kitchen.
Just a second. How much did you pay in check or cash to your sister each week or month?
Each week I paid $100.
Or $400?
A month.
And how many months were you with your sister?
We were there 103 days.
How many months were you with your sister? So you paid her a total of $1,600. Is that correct?
It wasn't exactly 4 months. It was a week short of 4 months. Aiden was there 15 weeks. So what she paid for him was $750. What she paid total would have been $1,500.
Okay, so $1,500. And you are ascribing half of that to her child?
Well, he had one room, she had one room.
I don't care. That's 3 people. What difference does it make?
I rented out by the room.
I don't care. That's a judgment that she made. They could have all stayed in one room. Okay, so
Not
let's
according
say...
to DHS.
Well, are you certified as a multiple dwelling? Are you certified, is your home certified as a multiple
ma'am.
dwelling? Right. So that's $500. What else?
Then in December I didn't have protective daycare until January. So I paid for daycare out of my pocket. And for December, we turned in for $380, and they paid $190 of it.
How much?
For Addison's, but they did not pay Aiden's $190.
They did not?
No.
Why?
Because he was not my grandson.
So that's $690. What else?
Okay, and then mileage for daycare.
Forget it.
Okay. And diapers and miscellaneous was $320.
Yeah.
And then we bought clothes and shoes for him and stuff. We estimated $160.
Where are the receipts for that?
I don't bring no receipts for clothing and shoes.
So far, she owes you $990.
And then we bought toys and books and stuff for him.
Did you return them to her when you gave them back?
We gave him some of the
No, no,
toys
no.
and some of it, not all of it.
If you didn't give it back to his mother, then you don't get paid for it.
Yeah, but I gave her clothes and shoes and all that stuff that I bought.
Well, show me the receipts.
I didn't bring receipts.
Well, this is what you're supposed
Part
to
of
bring.
them were gifts for Christmas.
Don't shout out. I believe that the defendant owes you some money for taking care of her child. It is apparent to me that some of the money that you would like to claim that she owes you was money that was spent jointly for both children. You were going to take your granddaughter to daycare anyway, so the mileage is ridiculous to try to have her pay for. She's a woman who has put her life back in order. She's been self-supporting. She takes care of her 2 children. How much do you pay for daycare?
I don't. It's provided by the state.
Great. How much do you earn?
About $450 every 2 weeks.
Okay. Plaintiff is seeking $2,200 from you. I think that that's excessive.
Very.
I think that for rent and food stuff, your portion of that should be $990. And that includes a portion for rent, some for food, clothing, and miscellaneous stuff. Really comprises the rest, and the daycare.
With the clothing, toys, they didn't bring anything home with him. The only thing that they brought home with him, when I got them back on March 19th, I sent him with a basket of clothes, and that was exactly what they brought back. The basket of clothes with his movies in the bottom. It looked as if they never even touched it, and that was all that had come home with him.
I'm sure that they did take care, and I'm sure if he was not clean and well kept and everything else, the daycare would have registered a complaint, which they didn't. But that's what you are. Okay. And I think that it's great that you're in a position now to help her.
Right.
And I'm sure you thank her and are grateful that you kept the kids out of foster care, both of the kids out of foster care, and it's wonderful that you put yourself back together. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $990. That's all. Thank you.
What is our excuse when they step out?
Well, I don't think it was quite fair. I should have been paid for all of it.
She never asked me for any money. She never asked me for anything.
I did go out of my way and I worked long hours.
She did take care of my son and my daughter for couple months.
My family and everybody helped provide for these kids and we took care of them.
I'm thankful to her, and so I think it was fair.
Her family should have, helped with the diapers and the care of it instead of harassing me. They should have helped.
She could have just asked me for it. Maybe we could have made out a payment plan or anything, but she didn't.
I just felt that Allie should talk to me, but she never had time because her mother was always there on Sundays.
She did it, not me. And if she's going to act that way, then maybe it's better off that she's not around them.
She said she would do anything to help if I would take Aiden to keep Addison and Aiden together.
I don't know if I want them to even be around him.
I would help her and the kids because I love them all.
Keep your kids with you.
Everybody should stay friends and talk more.
Tim McDonald says he incurred attorney fees as a result of false charges filed by Camille Raciniak and Michael Wahab. The couple claims Tim was driving like a maniac.
Mr. McDonald, it is your claim that the defendants filed false charges against you. I believe that the charges emanated from an instance of what we've come to call road rage that happened about a year ago.
That's correct.
The defendant said that you were acting erratically, that what they were trying to do is to secure your license plate number so that they could forward it to the police when this incident occurred. You didn't know each other prior to this incident, is that correct?
No. That's correct.
And you had a trial, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I did.
And you were acquitted?
I was acquitted on all 3 charges in 37 minutes.
When was the incident?
October 24th, 2004 at 2 o'clock.
And what kind of car were you driving, sir?
I was driving a BMW Z3 convertible with the top down.
Do me a favor. Just let me ask the questions and try to give me just the answers that I need. Where were you going, Mr. McDonald?
I had seen an open house sign on a street called Edwards, and I was following an open house sign into a track that I had never been in.
Tell me what happened, Mr. McDonald.
Well, as I was going through the track, I realized that there was a car in front of me. It was driving in an erratic fashion. What I mean by that, it would slow down to about 5 miles an hour, speed up 6.
So listen to me. Don't interrupt him. You're going to have an opportunity to testify. Don't interrupt him. Sorry, ma'am. Go ahead.
All of a sudden, I see her kind of go to the right, and I took that as her politely moving off to the right to let me go by.
How many lanes of traffic were there?
This street is a little unusual, and I have a picture over here that I took. If I may move over here to show you. Back here is where I'm seeing all the information going.
I just want to know how large the street was, Mr. McDonald. So that's the street that it was on, so there can be a parked car on either side and one lane of traffic.
Easily.
4 car lanes.
Correct.
Keep going.
The minute I went by her car, she lays into the horn, honk all the way around till I get in front. And I look in my rearview mirror, and simultaneously, I see both fingers go out the window on each side. So that kind of set the mood that was going on. And what I did is I gave a wave like this, my error. But I actually thought that was a polite movement on her in the very beginning. So as I go by, and I'm looking in my rear mirror, I see this go on, they make a left turn, and I think, okay, that's the end of it. Instead, they flip the U-turn and now coming at me. They caught me at the stop sign, and his window's down. She pulls a car right up next to me to the left of my side, and there's nothing but screaming going on. So I looked at Miss Resnick, and I said, "You're driving like an idiot." And then I turned right, they turned left. I thought that was the end of it. Nope. So I'm going down the street here, and as I go down the street, the road, as it shows, veers off to the left. As soon as I got around that corner, they're right back on my butt again. Now the problem is, I have them, having gone off to the left, time's taken, and I think they've got a weapon with them. They're staying between a half a car length and a car length behind my car.
How fast were you going, Mr. McDonald, at this point?
Probably about 25, 30 at the most.
Did you ever accelerate beyond 25 to
Yes, I
30
did.
miles? When?
When we came down the long street after they'd been tailgating me, I spotted people at the very end of the block. It's like the movie Duel, where I've got these people just bearing down on me. I don't know what they have in their possession.
What kind of car were they driving?
A white Malibu, I think is what it was. Like a
Okay.
mid-sized car. So they're behind me. I see people down at the end of the road. I accelerate and pull immediately in front of their house.
Uncross your hands.
At the exact moment that I'm pulling over and I get out of my car to yell to somebody to call the police, Miss Resnick takes her car and pulls in front in a wedge fashion.
Okay. So she parks and blocks you.
Correct. And all this whole thing that's going on is predicated on one idea that you said. They wanted to get my license plate. And I can show 15 different times that they could have. The truth meant, sure.
Life has a rhythm to it. There are certain things that are common sense, and there are certain things that are not. You don't have to fill in the blanks for me.
Okay.
If I need for you to fill in the blanks, Mr. McDonald, I'll ask you.
Okay.
Keep going.
So as soon as I get out of the car, she pulls the car over, he jumps out of the car and immediately starts coming toward me. Now at this point, I take a step toward him and I say, in the best voice I can, "Get back in your car!
Okay.
Get back in your car!" And it worked. He turned around right there, but Miss Resnick didn't leave it there. She puts her car in reverse. Your Honor, I have the transcripts of the court proceeding. I have it on audio, and I would appreciate to be able to at least play a couple tracks to give you a flavor of what happened.
She put the car in reverse. Go ahead.
And as she put the car in reverse, Mr. Wahab goes back to...
Mr. Wahab. Mr. Wahab.
Sorry.
You have problem controlling yourself, sir?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
You have problem controlling your temper, sir?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, it sounds to me as if you do, sir. You don't want to create that kind of impression, do you?
No, I don't.
You see, you've already done it. You only have one chance to make a first impression, Mr. Wahab.
Yes, Your Honor.
You've made a bad one so far.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wahab gets out of the car. I tell him to go back. He gets back in the car.
You told me that already.
As Miss Resnick's backing the car up, he jumps in the car, shuts the door, and you think it would end there. No. She keeps the car coming right back at me. I move out of the way, and just like she did at the stop sign, she stops his car door right here, the window's down, and I said, "Get out of here!" Now, let me back up a minute.
When you said get out of here,
Sure.
you made a slapping or punching motion.
Correct.
You hit the car.
Correct.
Did you hit it with your fist, with your hand? Did you kick
Open
it?
right hand.
Okay. Did you kick the car at all?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And then what happened?
So I hit it 3 times, "Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here," and as I'm saying that, I see Mr. Wahab either rearing back, like he was going to go back and kick me through the window, which I can't believe could be true,
Fine.
or...
You don't know. Don't speculate.
Okay, well, I see something coming at me. And as I lean back to deflect it, she has a car and drive, and they take off.
Okay.
But they don't. She flips the car around and U-turns. Stops again.
gosh.
Just on the other side of the road. He pops back out again. I say, "Get back in that car." He gets back in the car instantly. She takes off again. But that's not it. She goes forward again. She stops again. He pops out of the car, but this time There's a guy that was standing on the other side. A lot of people were evidently watching this thing. He goes over to Mr. Wahab, puts his hand on his shoulder and said, it's not worth it, it's not worth it. Now, here's what I know.
Don't tell me what you know.
This is what I was
Do you have-
thinking.
I don't care what you were thinking.
Okay? I left.
You left. Fine. Do you have a copy of the police report?
Yes, I do.
That Ms. Rusniak and Mr. Wahab filed?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Now, you were subsequently arrested, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
What were you charged with, sir?
I was charged with 242 battery of Mr. Wahab, disturbing the peace, challenging to fight against Mr. Wahab, and then vandalism, property, crime against Ms. Rusniak.
Who's going to speak for you? Both of you to start? Go ahead.
First, I would like to say that this man put my life in jeopardy. He really
No, you
did.
put your life in jeopardy. You put your life in jeopardy. I'm going to tell you why you put your life in jeopardy. Because according to what I read in the police report, your statement, you felt as if this man was driving too fast in a residential street. So you decided to try to get his license plate.
That's not all it was.
That's the reason, because there had been no altercation up until that time.
Actually, there was.
Oh, you explain that to me.
Well, as you see the street here, I live on not this street that's cut off, but the one in front of the Suburban right there.
So?
That's my street. I was turning left onto that street.
So?
He almost caused me to have an accident. He went around me on the left-hand side as I was making my
He was
left-hand
driving, I said, he was driving erratically, and you said he put your life at risk. You put your life at risk.
I admit, I should have never followed him, and I will never do it again.
That's right.
I learned my lesson on that
That's right.
But he did physically assault me
Listen to me
and my boyfriend.
Listen to me very carefully. You got hot, and you did a very dumb thing. You followed him, and you followed him, and you chased him several times.
I never...
Yes, you did. You followed him in order to, according to you, get his license plate number. But these are your statements, not mine. You told the police that she was so offended by this vehicle's unsafe driving that they made a U-turn and then made a U-turn back to attempt to get his license plate number of the vehicle to report it to the police. They said they pulled up alongside the vehicle at a stop sign. Well, what'd you do that for? You wanted to get his license plate number, and call the police, but that's not what you did. And asked him why he was driving so recklessly. So let me figure this out. You were very offended by the way he was driving. You made 2 U-turns in order to catch up with him. That's what you told the police, unless you say the police are lying. And you didn't get his license plate, but you pulled up to him and, according to you, said to him in a calm way, why are you driving so recklessly? Do you know how ridiculous that sounds?
No.
Do you know how ridiculous? I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying to you that somewhere between what you're going to tell me and what he told me is the truth. That's probably why the jury acquitted him. Now, who are you? You are 2 people. He's 1 person in a car. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know whether you have good intentions, bad intentions. He has no clue. All he knows is, according to you, you have turned around and followed him on at least 3 occasions. And at that point, you are 2 nuts following him, and he doesn't know what you have in mind. So now what you're complaining about is that he dented your car. I would have hit your car. I would have taken a brick and thrown it through the windshield if 2 people were following me over a dissing incident?
That's not what it was about in the least.
Well, that's what it was about, madam. If you didn't get the license plate number calmly and call the police, you had a cell phone.
No, I didn't.
No, we did not have a cell phone.
Oh, and you had no pen?
No.
No,
we
I did have a pen, but we were unable to get his license plate number.
he was driving too
and my
fast.
first intention was not to get his
He
license
had
plate number.
pulled over and stopped.
Your Honor, I can prove that they have a cell phone. I can prove it without a doubt.
How can you prove that?
I wasn't on the cell phone up until the point where I tried to call the police, sir.
Oh, madam, are you telling me that you just lied to me when you said you didn't? I'm speaking! Are you telling me that you just lied to me when you said I didn't have a cell phone?
We don't have a cell phone on us.
Where was the cell phone?
It's not my house.
The house.
Just a second. You say you can show me that she had a cell phone in the car?
What they forgot was that they had called 911 from the cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Let me see.
No,
And
I did call-
Mr. Wahab, let me explain to you twice now what you did, sir. You showed me that you cannot control your temper.
I
Two
can control
times.
my temper, Your Honor.
2 times in a courtroom. So if you can't control yourself in a courtroom, what are you doing out in the street when somebody drives by and flips off your girlfriend? Ooh. You have something that's going to show me that they had a cell phone?
Correct.
Show me.
I also have audio tape of the transcripts.
Okay, what kind of car was it? It was a convertible red BMW 2-door, and it was a male driver? Yes, he has some issues. Okay, what's the cell phone number you're calling from? 714. Okay.
Two things I'll show Your Honor, if I may.
But just 1 second. Mr.
Sure.
McDonald, that doesn't demonstrate to me that they had a phone in the car.
No, I'm sorry, but I actually have her statement in court saying that she called on the way back
Oh,
to
let
the
me
house.
see. I'd like to see that.
And I also have the certified copy of the
Your Honor?
transcripts complete.
He said that we pulled over to a red curb on the street. There's no red curb on that street,
Mr.
though.
Wahab, we're not talking about red
All right,
curb,
I'm sorry.
sir. The first thing
I don't
I'm
even know why I'm here today.
Just a second. Well, look at me, and I'm going to tell you. You're here today because he's suing you.
Yeah, obviously.
He's suing you, and one of the things that surprised me about Ms. Rusniak's call to the police is her statement to the police, which I believe said something, and I'm paraphrasing, the guy's got some serious issues. Well, I want to tell you something. If somebody had just assaulted my passenger, as you claim, I wouldn't have said this guy in a BMW had some serious issues. I would have said this guy driving erratically has just assaulted my passenger. He kicked and punched my car. Something is clearly wrong with him. Not in a almost lackadaisical way. I'm speaking. Almost, we can hear it again. Almost lackadaisical way. You're reporting that this guy's got some issues.
The operator never let us finish our statement.
Let me tell you something. I heard this very, very clearly. Nobody cut you off.
No.
Nobody cut you off.
He didn't play the whole tape.
You know when I said to you before, life has a rhythm, and if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Somebody comes into my middle of the night, takes a knife and puts it to my throat, and assaults me. While they're leaving, they steal a teacup. When I call 911, I don't say somebody just came into my house and stole a teacup. I say someone came into my house, put a knife to my throat, and assaulted me. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes,
I heard him in the
completely
background.
do. He was freaking out, and I was trying to be the calm one.
I heard him in the background. All right, let me see where you say she had the cell phone in the car.
Page 31, line 8
Okay.
in the transcript. I have the excerpts, and then I have, and that's a certified transcript.
Now, Mr. McDonald, you think I'm finished with you? I haven't started with you yet.
Okay.
Because I can tell what happened here. Anybody who's lived as long as I have knows exactly what happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm not sure you weren't behaving a little erratically, and I'm not sure you didn't lose your temper and didn't use a lot of foul language.
I don't use foul language at all, Your Honor. Not at all.
Not according to the witnesses, sir. According to the witnesses, they say that you were using a little foul language.
That's where
That may be.
that's where it fell apart in court. They never showed up.
Well, they may not have showed up for whatever reason, but that's what the witnesses said initially when they spoke to the police, whether they didn't want to get involved, whether they were neighbors, who knows. Page what?
Page 31, I believe it was line 8.
It's what you said, my dear. I'm going to read it to you. You backed up to help your boyfriend get into the car quicker, right? Yes. And then you leave. Yes. Okay, and you don't see the BMW anymore, correct? Not after I drove off. Okay, do you remember when you called 911? Yes, it was right as I was driving away.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, because...
Well, that's what it says. Now, I would assume that the trial of this case, you remember things more clearly than you do today because it was closer in time to the event. Aside from the fact it doesn't make sense. Everybody keeps their cell phone in a car. So the fact that you say to me I didn't have my cell phone in the car was a crock. How much did this whole escapade cost you, Mr. McDonald?
He was able to do it for $3,500 as long as I supplied him with all the information.
But in court, you said that you got acquitted in 37 minutes. We were there.
No, it doesn't matter.
It
also, you said
Listen
that you
to
never
me.
touched my
Third time, you couldn't control yourself. Not the first, not the second. Third time, you couldn't control yourself. So you can't control yourself, and she doesn't know how to tell the truth. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
And Your Honor, you're
Step
aware
out.
that I have judgments against each of it individually, correct?
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's it.
Charlene Juergen says ex-boyfriend Colin Hager owes for a burglary, an assault, and a loan for bail.
All right, Ms. Juergens, you and the defendant used to have a romantic relationship, and according to your complaint, something happened a year ago that caused all kinds of problems. There was a freeway altercation between the two of you. You claim he assaulted you, then he was arrested. Then you decided that you would help him out by bailing him out. You obligated yourself to a bail bondsman. You claim he owes you money for that. You claim he owes you money for the assault. You claim he owes you money for going into your apartment at some time subsequent to this altercation and ruining your property. Mr. Hager has a whole different interpretation of what happened on the freeway about a year ago. He says that you actually stole money from him, that you're not obligated to the bail bondsman. He's obligated to the bail bondsman. He's going to have an opportunity to tell me, but you're no longer in love?
No.
Absolutely not.
You don't see each other anymore?
No way.
No.
Perfect. So, tell me what happened a year ago, Ms. Juergens.
I was in a violent relationship, so I moved out of my county to a different county, and he followed me down there. He learned where I lived.
Look at me. Don't look down there.
And he showed up and broke into my bathroom window, and he...
Were you home during all this time?
No, I was not home.
Just a second. You have any proof that he burglarized your house?
No. I have a police report of the robbery.
That you reported?
Yes, I did report it.
I can make a report. I can make a report that he burglarized my house.
He admitted he went through my bathroom window on the police report.
What date?
On November 25th of 2004, he admitted on his police report to the police in San Diego that he went through my bathroom window.
Okay, let me see that.
Didn't know.
Because November 25th, 2004 is the same day as this freeway altercation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see the report where he admits that.
I never even spoke to the police.
Shh. Just a second. Would you have her point out where he says window? Just circle it. Circle where he admits to the police that he went into your bathroom window.
He returned and climbed through my bathroom window.
That's you telling the police. You said he admitted to the police that he went through my bathroom window. I said, show me in the report.
Perhaps he admitted it to me.
Oh, please. All right. Would you get to the freeway, please? What happened on the freeway?
Well, I left my home because I didn't want any problems at my home. So I got in my car and I was traveling to my friend's house, and his car chased me, and I thought I should go right to the police department. And he followed me, and then he ran me off the road in front of an office, and the lady came out and dialed 911.
Keep going.
I couldn't call 911 because he was reaching in my window to steal my cell phone.
Keep going.
He hit my rental car, and then he sped off.
Keep going.
So basically, that's hit and run. The police arrived, took my statement, and they went to track him for the robbery and the damages to the car.
Keep going.
They found him and they arrested him. He said he had a drink and a lost phone, and he was crying and upset.
Let's get to the bail, Ms. Juergens, please.
He was arrested in San Diego. He knew my home phone number, so he called collect, and he promised to pay for those collect calls.
Just a second. He called collect, and the operator said, I have Mr. Hager on the phone, and you said, I'll accept the charges.
Not the first time.
I don't care if it's the first time or the 100th time. At
Eventually, I took the call.
And what happened when you took the call?
He was upset and crying and promising me that he would quit using drugs and he would go to AA and never drink again. Please help me get out. My family won't help me. My sister won't bail me out. Only you can help me out.
So?
I hung up on him and I called my lawyer.
About what?
I said, my ex-boyfriend was arrested and he's asking me to bail him out. And my attorney said, well, that's a great idea because then you can bring him to us and we can get a retainer. So bail him out, sign for his release.
You think I believe that? You think I believe what you just told me? You think Bird believes what you just told me? That you calling your lawyer and you said, my ex-boyfriend who beat me up, who I moved from one county to another county to get away from, just called me up to bail him out of jail because after he burglarized my house, assaulted me, chased me down the freeway, damaged my rental car, tried to steal my cell phone. After all of that, wants me to bail him out. And your lawyer said to you, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you do that and we can get a retainer from him and then we'll all be one happy family. So you went and bailed him out and put down with the bail bondsman how much?
I didn't put any monies down. I just signed for his release as my attorney told me to do so.
So they let him out because you promised to pay?
He promised.
So what are you suing him for bail for?
I have a promissory note that he promised to pay and he's never paid.
Well, what does that have to do with you? If you just said you're not obligated to pay the bail, what is the promise? You're suing on behalf of the bail bondsman?
The bail bondsman is suing me for the amount of $2,500 for
Show me that the bail bondsman is suing you. Well, they're not suing you. They said if this matter is not resolved, they're going to send this to a collection agency. Tell them to sue you. All right. Tell me this story about what happened, Miss Juergens, when you signed him out and took him to your lawyer. Tell me what happened.
My lawyers had him sign a retainer and they made $8,000 off of him.
Yes.
Then they called him and said, why haven't you paid that bail bond? It's going to collections. Pay it. And he promised.
Just a minute. Why would you take him to your lawyer? This man who you fled from one county to another to get away from, who just burglarized your house, assaulted you in your home, battered your car, almost killed you on a freeway, why would you take him to your lawyer?
To get him out of my county of San Diego and put him back in Orange County and let my lawyers handle it.
How many lawyers are there in Orange County?
About 1 million.
Right. And according to you, we paid your lawyer $8,000. I guarantee you, another half dozen of the million lawyers in Orange County would have taken the case for $8,000. So why you chose to take him to your lawyer? The whole story is so bizarre. And if the story is so bizarre, and if it doesn't make sense, it didn't happen that way. All right, Mr. Hager, I've listened to the fairy tale on this side. You want to tell me your side of this fairy tale?
What really happened was she took off with my phone after coming to my hotel room.
Where was your hotel?
San Diego, Mission Bay.
What were you doing?
And they're like getting ready to go to SeaWorld.
You were getting ready to go to SeaWorld?
Yeah.
Who were you going to SeaWorld with?
I was going to go to SeaWorld with my daughter.
Was your daughter with you?
No, she wasn't at the time.
Where does she live?
She lives down in Costa Mesa.
Listen, Mr. Hager,
Yeah.
you're always going to get tripped up on a little detail.
Yeah.
Because they make up the story as they're going. Do you understand?
Oh, I'm not making it up.
Oh! What were you doing in a hotel room, and what was she doing in your hotel room while you're getting ready to take your daughter to see the sea lions?
My daughter wasn't with me at the time. She was in Oceanside visiting her cousins. Charlene came down there because she had to see me.
Just a second. How did she know you were there, sir?
She called me.
On your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And you told her, I'm here. Did you tell her before or after you arrived?
After I arrived, I believe.
And she came to your hotel?
Yeah.
What's the name of the hotel?
I think it was the Hilton.
Paid by credit card or cash?
Credit card, I believe.
And you registered there in your own name?
Yes, yes.
Why do you hesitate?
Well, I have trouble with remembering details. Yes.
Well, I mean, it would be a simple thing. Somebody said, did you register there in your own name? I'd say, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, Do you know what I'm saying, Mr.
Yeah,
Hager?
I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's the little details that are going to trip you up if I don't get an accurate story from you.
Okay.
Or as close to accurate in this fantasy that I want to get.
All right.
So she came to your hotel.
Yes.
For what purpose?
To talk.
About what?
About a relationship, and also to try and talk me into backing off on some of the accusations and charges I had against her.
For what?
Battery, robbery, all kinds of stuff.
Were there criminal charges pending against her at the time?
Yes.
Is that true, Ms. Juergens?
1, assault. Robbery is false.
So at the time you went to his hotel, there was a current criminal action pending against you?
Yes.
Well, at least I got you in his hotel. That's different from the bathroom in your house. Now, according to you, she left your hotel with your cell phone, is that right?
That's correct.
And that's why you followed her on the freeway.
Yes.
Did you pay the bail bondsman, sir?
Yes, I paid him everything up to about $2,500.
Did you pay her lawyer any money?
Yeah, and quite a lot of money. In fact, I paid her bill for the lawyer too.
You did?
Oh yeah, I have the receipt right here.
How much did you pay her lawyer?
$1,250 on one count, and then I paid $2,500 on another count.
What made you so magnanimous?
Well, you know, she kept telling me that we could work things out and she loved me and stuff like that.
Were those criminal charges subsequently dropped, Ms. Juergens?
No, they weren't.
Did that case go to trial?
It did not. I changed my not guilty plea.
To a guilty plea?
Yeah, after 11 months.
What was your sentence?
Time served.
How long had you been incarcerated?
48 days.
What was the nature of the assault that you pled guilty to?
He alleged that I scratched him and assaulted him and battered him.
Is that right, Mr. Hager?
Yeah, I have the report with the 5 stitches that I had, if you'd like to see that.
I would. So I am correct in the time sequence in this case.
Right.
Your allegations, Ms. Juergens, that he assaulted you after he crawled through the bathroom window, and that's when you took off down the freeway. That police report was made after you were under indictment for assault. Is that right?
I was fighting my alleged charge.
Correct. Well, you said the alleged charge. It's no longer an alleged charge. It's a conviction.
Now it is.
How come you didn't tell me you were in his hotel room until I got the information a different way?
You didn't ask, and he asked me to go. He invited me.
This is the same man, Ms. Juergens, who you fled from one county to another to escape. You went to his hotel room alone? Goodbye, Ms. Juergens. I'm totally disinterested in your lawsuit. You have no case. That's all. Goodbye.
Step forward, please.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her?
Yes.
How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother? Mm-hmm. You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day. And we were friends for about 5 months. And then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible.
Yeah.
Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It
as
was
a loan.
offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
What?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me, not for me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating?
To start out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight, and it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, you're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No? Just like that? No? No.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay? The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had start being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today,
You're not a man. You're a little weasel.
Because
Your whole family.
Just got put him away for 20 years. So.
You know what? You're all going to jail.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you
I
know?
have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far, out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother. In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age. At age 15, to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story. But right now, it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age and how much we were hanging out together, I was lying to her, again, to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
them.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am, I have a new relationship.
I heard that already. Sound like a
It's-
broken
it
record.
was-
Well, you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year
A
ago.
year ago.
Right.
Right, so this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying
Your dad's
scumbag.
gonna
Your
bail
whole
you out
family is that way.
again.
Your dad's constantly bails you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Cope, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car,
For
correct?
a car or college, whichever I decided that was
Whatever.
more important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter. You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been. So you got to be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
All right, are excused. You may step out. Back there to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay, so that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated. Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys.
Yes.
To go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car,
Yes, I did.
and you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your
Well, no,
husband's son, that's a good time for a marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. she came up to, I did not ask for the money, I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old, you know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back
That's a total lie.
because I was getting my settlement, okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked him shut.
Not since.
Not talking about his dad. He said to you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Well, you're excused. You may step out. That's back.
You got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells Fargo.
I really don't care. I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You wouldn't have even had that money if it wasn't for me.
I said
you will pay.
Your son can't drive and got in a car accident.
Shut up, you.
Why can't you be a man and pay the money
you
back?
You lied to your dad.
Because you can't hold
I
a
lied to my
job.
dad?
Yes, you lied to your dad. You said you didn't get the money out of the trust account. I called the bank. You got it.
Yeah,
then
I did get it. The only thing was I got it 3
3
months after I turned 18 because I couldn't. But what
because
does that
you were
matter?
too stupid to figure out how to
What
get
does
it
that
on your
matter?
own. I know you can't do contracts with minors. I'm not stupid.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 369 on the calendar in the matter of Thomason versus Herzog. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats.
Miss Thomason, this defendant, according to you, lived in your home, and when he left, he owed you money for rent, utilities, etc.
That's correct.
Do you have a two-family home, or was he living in your apartment?
I rent a large home, and he was the first roommate that I advertised for after my long-term roommate died of cancer a year ago.
So he lived in a home that you rented?
Correct.
So he had his own room?
Yes.
Own bath?
Yes.
And kitchen privileges, is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So tell me about the rental agreement.
He answered the ad in the recycler, and we agreed on $600 a month plus 1/4 of the utilities.
Is that correct, sir?
No, it isn't, Your Honor.
Well, let's start. Did you answer an ad?
Yes, I did.
And you went to her home?
That's correct.
And what agreement did you come to?
Basically, as far as the rental agreement concerned, the rent was going to be $450 per month, and I also gave a $250 deposit at that time.
So you say the rent was $450, and you say it was $600. What about the utilities, sir?
The utilities were going to be fairly split.
Fairly split is not an arrangement, sir. Fairly split sounds ridiculous when you're talking between two strangers. Were you supposed to pay half the utilities, a quarter of the utilities? What were you supposed to pay?
Basically, there was no straight agreement or arrangement on that. It was going to be split between, there was
Marilyn and her 2 sons, plus her boyfriend also living there at the time.
What month did you move in?
I moved in the 1st of March.
Of this year?
That's correct.
And how many months did you live there?
I lived there for 6 months, Your Honor.
And how many months rent did you pay?
I paid 2 months rent, and at that time I had given notice of to vacate the day following.
So you paid for 2 months?
And the utilities, correct.
And you lived there for 6 months?
That's correct.
And you lived there March and April, and then you said you were leaving?
That's correct, Your Honor.
But you didn't leave?
But I did not leave.
And you stayed on for an additional 4 months and paid nothing? Why not?
At the time of notice of vacation, to vacate the premises, she had given me, which I have documented, written notices and a note from her stating that it would be okay for me to stay there as long as I want, for free, under no obligation to pay for rent or utilities.
Let me see the note.
Basically what I have and like to present to you
Don't
at
tell me
this time.
basically, just show
Okay.
me the note.
If I can present this to you, Your Honor.
Just the note. Show it to her, Bird, would you please?
That's one of several notes. I had a little trouble
Just a
communicating with him, but I wrote notes.
I just want to see what it says here. Why did you give her notice that you were leaving, sir?
It was a very uncomfortable situation for me from the very beginning. I just felt it was appropriate for me to leave. It was just an unbearable situation in the house.
Okay. Tell me why it was an unbearable situation.
Basically, the first and foremost reason was the harassment that I've been receiving from her to somehow come into a physical relationship with her.
You mean from the time you moved in?
That's correct.
March and April?
That's correct.
And it was unbearable?
It was
According
somewhat
to you just said to
uncomfortable.
me
It was something uncomfortable and unbearable, yes, Your Honor.
So you stayed on, you moved in March, you stayed in April. And after this unbearable situation, you stayed May, June, July, and August for another 4 months.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Why?
Basically, she had, we had spoken and she had agreed that she was going to try to basically stop some of the inappropriate comments that she had made. I also have a note stating to my mother that she had made sexually indiscreet comments and
like
harassing
what?
comments.
Like what?
She would say, she'd note to her friends, "This is my little houseboy, lives here, isn't he cute?" She would tell her friends to come over when I was around. She'd say things like, it'd be great if you wouldn't wear a shirt around the house. You have such a great body. Just a lot of small remarks like that. I mean, there's some photos.
Slowly she turned.
There's some photos here that I have.
Mr. Herzog.
Yes.
If a big guy like you doesn't like the heat, then you get out of the kitchen. Sounds to me as if she's making these overtures to you that you don't like, you pack your bag and you leave. If a situation is unbearable, that's what it means, unbearable. So you leave. You didn't leave, you sponged.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your beauty is going to go one day, sir. I know you must think you're a very handsome man and you can get away with murder. But anybody who can twist the truth, like you can, is not good looking in my eyes.
And later today,
I'm not a criminal. This is the first thing I've ever been in trouble for in my life. This has taken up way too much of my time already.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Attorney Marilyn Thomason is suing Bruno Herzog for unpaid rent and utilities. Bruno is countersuing Marilyn for sexual harassment.
Show me the rent receipts for May, June, July, and August. Show me your canceled checks to her in the amount of, let's say, your amount, $450 a month.
Okay, excuse me, Your Honor. Basically, the two things that I have here is I have, in the lawsuit, it states from the plaintiff that she states that there is a written agreement. In fact, she refused to ever provide me with a rental agreement.
Mr. Herzog, what word that I just said didn't you understand? Show me the rent receipts from May, June, July, and August.
That's also part of the situation that I have here is that in the beginning, there was cash paid to her. I had asked for receipts on that on several occasions. That was refused to me. I felt that she said to me this was for...
So is what you're telling me, Mr. Herzog, that you paid her in cash
That's correct.
and you didn't get a receipt?
That's correct, Your Honor, and I had asked for that
You are
time
one
and time
lying
again.
sucker. You just told me no more than 5 minutes ago that you didn't pay her anything for those 4 months, and now you say you paid her, but you paid her in cash?
Yes, Your Honor, and I also have a statement from her in a
You
response...
just told me you didn't pay her for 4 months. And you told me the reason you didn't pay her for 4 months is because she volunteered for you to stay there for free.
That was...
What is it? Did you pay her or did you not?
Your Honor, I paid her for the March and April rent.
That's not what I asked you, sir. I said, show me the receipts for May, June, July, and August.
I have no receipts for those, Your Honor.
Because you didn't pay her for those months.
That's correct.
Right. So you owe her for those months. Because if something is so unbearable that you can't live there because you don't like the fact that she is making these suggestive statements to you, you're a big boy whose feet aren't planted in cement, you pick yourself up and you leave.
Well, Your Honor, through conversation with her, I felt that this problem would be resolved. She is an attorney, and I felt that she would understand as far as the relationship goes as a roommate, and there was going to be no physical or relationship
So
ever
did
in
it
there.
stop?
The harassment?
Did it stop?
It did stop for some time, Your Honor.
For how much time, sir?
It would be hard to say. I mean, there was comments made left and right, but maybe for the first month after that, it seemed to be, she seemed to work on it.
Mr. Herzog, what do you do for a living, sir?
I am self-employed. I own a business.
What kind of business do you own, sir?
It's a manufacturing business.
What kind of manufacturing?
We manufacture snowboards.
Snowboards. Mr. Herzog, did you ever hear the expression, beauty fades, dumb is forever?
Yes, I have.
Your beauty is going to go one day, sir. I know you must think you're a very handsome man and you can get away with murder, but I'm telling you, I do not find you particularly attractive. Maybe it's because I'm too old. I don't think so. But anybody who can twist the truth like you can is not good looking in my eyes. Now, if this lady had a thing for you, I don't know, maybe she's desperate. Who knows? In any event, you can't stand there as a man and tell me that you were so offended by the way your landlord was treating you, you stayed on for 4 months but didn't pay her any rent. You want to say something?
If I may.
About what?
About the sexual harassments that...
Who are you?
I am Heidi Britton.
How do you know him?
He is my brother.
Where do you live?
I live in Laguna Beach.
Why didn't he live with you?
Because I'm an opera singer and I travel around the world.
Wonderful. So you must have an apartment that's free a lot.
No.
That's vacant a lot.
No, I have a husband.
Well, if the situation with your brother, madam, was so unbearable in his residence, and you, as his sister, who clearly cares about him, did not say, while it's so unbearable there, living with this lady and her 2 children, come and live with me, you're not much of a sister. Now you tell me whatever you want to tell me.
First day I met Marilyn, she had made comments about what a good-looking body, what, does he have a girlfriend? Is there anything that you can do to help me, I'm interested in basically, and I'd like to have a relationship with him.
So?
I told him no, that he had been seeing someone and that was inappropriate. I thought, he's my brother, I don't know you, I'm not going to divulge information or share information, which if he wanted you to know something, he would tell you something.
So what?
On other occasions, she had said to me, I really want Bruno to stay here. I'd like to be involved with him. I was out in the yard with his cats with Bruno. She said, I'll pay him to stay here. I really like Bruno. I'd like he'd be a...
So did you think that was all very sick?
I thought that was very, very sick.
Very sick.
In fact, I had assisted and started looking for other locations for my brother.
If you thought it was all very sick, why would you allow your brother to stay in a sick situation?
Well,
is he retarded?
No, he's not.
Is your brother retarded?
No, he's not.
Is he dim-witted?
No, he's not.
He owes her money. That's what he does.
Judge Judy is ready to rule, and later today,
You wouldn't know the truth, Mr. Neville, if he came up and bit you in the behind.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marilyn Thomason wants money owed for rent and utilities from her former roommate Bruno Herzog. Mr. Herzog says Ms. Thomason harassed and assaulted him.
I'm taking his amount, madam, of $450, right? That's $1,800. And I'm not even tacking on much for utilities, another $50 for the 4 months, bringing your grand total to $2,000. Listen to me. I really have no idea whether she said what you attribute to her. Nothing sounds so lewd and lascivious to me. This is not sexual harassment in the workplace. You didn't work there. She wasn't trying to create a situation to make things unbearable for you so that you couldn't earn a living. You are clearly, at least according to your sister, of sound mind, and you had the ability and the capability to pick yourself up and move if you didn't like what was going on. You don't live there and sponge off somebody. Now, you've got a countersuit for sexual harassment. I assume that you've told me the best statements that you can think of that she said to you during the course of your tenancy that would at least touch my conscience and say that's terrible. Right? And I don't find she sexually harassed you at all, sir. If she liked you and you didn't like her, the chivalrous thing to do would have been to have moved out as quickly as possible. Your counterclaim for sexual harassment is dismissed, and I am awarding the plaintiff $2,000 for your back rent and utilities. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She had just shot some photos of me without my consent when I was in the backyard, kind of half naked, I guess you'd say, with no shirt on, for her own, I guess, private use, pleasures.
You're
Disgusting.
an old, disgruntled woman who has 2 children by 2 different fathers. Get over it. He's not going to be a father to your children.
I have many friends, and I'm dating somebody.
Batteries.
No, we got along fine. He had a great sense of humor.
And now the next case.
Parties on Haney versus Neville Neiman. Step forward, please.
37-year-old florist Sue Haney says her neighbors Jeff Newman and Craig Neville stole her bicycle and destroyed it.
Miss Haney, these 2 young men were involved in the theft of a bicycle that you owned.
Correct.
They were arrested, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Found guilty?
No. Not if
They were arrested and convicted of receiving of stolen property.
Involved, but the stolen property was her bicycle.
Yes.
And when your bicycle was returned to you, it was returned in what condition?
Pieces.
So you're suing both of these young men for the cost of your bike, which is $202.64.
Right.
You want to tell me why you don't think that you are responsible to pay her? Let's start with you, Mr. Newman.
First of all, I paid a $200 restitution fine. I spent 2 days in jail. I almost lost my job over this, and I'm not a criminal. This is the first thing I've ever been in trouble for in my life.
So that's the reason why you don't think that you're responsible to pay her at least part of the money.
This has taken up way too much of my time already.
Now,
Shouldn't have taken it.
please.
Order.
Please.
I didn't take it.
Please. And you are Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Neville, would you tell me why you don't think that you are responsible to pay her at least part of the money for her bicycle?
Well, first of all, I didn't steal her bike, neither did Jeff. I bought the thing from somebody off the street.
Baloney! So let's start with the first, with that's baloney.
No, it's not.
Yeah, sure it is. Sure it is. It's baloney. You just so happen to have bought a bike that was stolen from somebody off the street, and you knew one of her children or something according to the complaint. Was that right?
I've known all of her children for years.
You knew all of her children, so it was just a coincidence that you were at the bicycle and it was taken apart and dismantled so that some of you had the wheels, some of you had the main frame of the bike. That was all just a coincidence. Am I correct, sir? Just a coincidence?
Yes.
Well, I want you to get him a copy of my book.
I think we would have been smart enough if we'd stolen this woman's bike to have gotten rid of the parts after we'd stolen them.
Mr. Neville, thieves are always stupid. You didn't buy this bike from some unknown person, sir. And if you did, I am certain that you would have told the police the name of the person that you bought the bike from. Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
You told them the name of the person, and did they contact that person?
I don't know.
Did you tell them where they could find that person?
I didn't know where the person lived.
Well, why don't you tell me how it came about that you bought this bicycle from, let us call him John Jones? Why don't you look at me, sir, and tell me how it came about that you bought this bicycle?
I was hanging out with the guy at a party. He told me I had a bicycle.
You were hanging out with a guy at a party.
Mm-hmm.
Which guy?
His name was Steve.
And so Steve told you he had a bike.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you bought it from him?
Yes.
Don't you feel stupid trying to tell me that story?
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Don't you feel stupid trying to tell me that story?
No,
Don't you feel
it's the truth.
stupid?
I don't feel stupid telling the truth.
You don't know what the truth is. You wouldn't know the truth, Mr. Neville, if it came up and bit you in the behind. Each of you owes this lady $101 and 32 cents. You, sir, your excuse for not paying her is that this matter has taken up all too much of your time. Not an excuse. And your, sir, excuse that you bought this bicycle from, and I quote, Steve doesn't wash with me. You're entitled to your money, madam. You have a judgment for that amount.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The only people who have wasted time is me and the law enforcement. If they hadn't taken the bike to begin with, no one's time would have been wasted. That's why they're not allowed at my house. They're not, you were told by me and Greg, stay away from my home, and you came back.
Your Honor, this is case number 389 on the calendar in the matter of Thompson versus Pack Dividget. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Thompson, you allege that the defendant ran you off the road, damaging your truck. He says you caused the accident. It was your fault. So I assume from these papers that you had some contact with each other before this incident happened. Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, tell me, what was the relationship between the two of you?
I do not really know him. I worked with his boyfriend, Felix, at an answering service, and Felix was to relieve me that day. I was in charge at my work, and he was calling saying that he was going to be late, and I got very upset because I had worked a 10-hour day, and he's always late. And so...
You're Felix?
Yes.
And so I got very upset and yelled at him. We yelled at each other, and I hung the phone up in his ear. Kevin is very protective of Felix and got angry with that, I guess. I don't know. I didn't have any contact with him until he hit my truck.
Well, tell me how that happened.
I was at work, and like I said, me and Felix had yelled at each other. And then I saw Kevin waiting downstairs, thinking he was just waiting for me to leave because I was in charge. So I was thinking he was
Just
waiting.
a second. He said he's going to be late. You got very angry. You yelled at him on the phone and hung up. You drove him to work?
Right.
And what were you doing waiting downstairs?
No, it was because she gets off right when he starts. And
so you drop him off. He goes inside to the house.
Well, actually, he didn't end up going in. They were right at the door, and they were arguing right there. And I was watching, to make sure that nothing happened.
Okay, so they were still outside.
No, that's
It was
not
like right by, they were inside the door, but I could see them. And so they were arguing right.
But then there came a time when he went in and she came out.
She came out right, and I lit a cigarette, and then she made a U-turn, and she went away. She drove in front of me, and I drove away.
So far,
And
correct?
there's been lots of times when we've driven away at the same time before. So.
Okay. No. So tell me what happened.
Okay, all of what he just said is incorrect. Felix had walked all the way in and already clocked in on the computer. And when he clocks in, I clock out to relieve each other. So we weren't standing at the door, we were already in our office. And he was waiting downstairs. It was a good 5 minutes that we yelled at each other, and I got to my car. I had to get in my car and drive all the way down a hill and make a U-turn to come up, and he was still sitting there. And I later found out that he told Felix that he was going to follow me. Well, anyways, we're
I never said, sorry.
How did you find that out?
Because Janice, my boss's daughter, was staying at the house.
Well, you should have brought a witness because you can't tell me that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you said it was a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, a good 5 minutes.
So tell me about what happened after he started to follow you.
Okay, it's in a gated community and the speed limit's 35. And it's like a windy canyon road, and so I was going the speed limit 35. He was not stopping for any stop signs or anything. When I would stop, he would follow right behind me. I still didn't know what his problem was, so I kept going, and he passed me, which you're not allowed to do. It's just a 2-lane highway, and he passed me really fast and got in front of me and started going even slower than I was already going. So we get to a stop signal, and we had to each make a right. I don't know where he was going, but I had to make a right. And he had made a right as well, and I was behind him. We were in number 1 lane, and so he was going very, very slow. So I went in the number 2 lane. And as soon as I moved over, he swerved in front of me. And so I went back in the number 1 lane, but then a number 3 lane had opened, I'd fallen, and he went all the way over to the number 3. So he's a number 1, and he cut all the way in front of me and went to number 3. And he was following me very closely. And so I was
So now he's behind you?
Again, yeah, now he's behind me. And so I was going around a turn, and it was raining that day, so I was braking around the turn, and he smacks in the back of my truck. So I kept going. I was going to pull over, so as soon as I was starting to pull over, he smacked the back of my truck, which sent me spinning out of control, and I hit the center median. And then as soon as I hit the center median, I bounced off of it, sort of, I guess you would say, and he rammed the center of the driver's side 2 times.
You have pictures of the car?
Yes, I do, before and after pictures.
Let me see them, please.
Do you want them out of the album?
No, I don't mind looking at them in an album. Okay, sir. Give me your version of the events, please.
Okay, I had just left his work, both their work, and she was in front of me, and she was driving so slow, and she was doing it on purpose. So I go around her, and then I went to the light where I was supposed to make the right-hand turn, and she's behind me, and she's honking at me and honking at me. And so then I make a right-hand turn, and she's behind me, and she's totally tailgating me, and I make a left. And when I merged over into the number 2 lane, because the number 3 lane ended, she was in front of me. She was just like right there in front of me. So then I tried to squeeze over to get into the number 1 lane, and she tried to get into she was trying to get away from me, and I was trying to get away from her. We both ended up in the number 1, and I hit her, and then she spun out into the middle, and I ended up on the side of the road. And I went over to her side of the road, and she was just yelling at me, telling me, I'm going to get you for everything you've got.
I was unconscious. Sorry.
And so she drove away, and I mean it was just a car accident, Your Honor. And the only reason we're really here today is because she hates me because I'm gay. And I mean I've got witnesses here.
She hates you because you damaged her truck.
No, well she hit the brakes.
Just a second.
She hit the brakes.
Just a second. First of all, you didn't say that when you were just telling me your whole scenario. Your whole scenario ended with the fact that you had to change lanes.
Right. And I ended up behind her. I don't know how I ended up behind her, but she hit the brakes. That's how I.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Can you say I made a mistake?
No, yeah.
Good. Step up here. Listen to me very carefully, sir. Why were you going to be late?
Because I had to pick him up from work.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had to pick him up from work. I called her a half an hour before I had to be into work, and I told her I might be 5 minutes late. She gave me an attitude. She hung up the phone on me.
Had you ever been late before?
Yeah, I had been late in the past. I understand her.
Just a second. That's not right.
I understand. I understand, Your Honor.
She's worked 10 hours. He's got his problems. You've got your responsibilities, so she had a reason to be angry, correct?
Well, we both live together and we have one car, so...
She is not a partner in your misfortune.
I understand.
She wouldn't be a partner in your good fortune. She's not a partner in your bad fortune.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
If I told you you were a fat pig, wouldn't you be offended?
I wouldn't really care. I
Okay,
really wouldn't care.
it's
Your
the same-
opinion does not
it's the
matter
same
to me.
thing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Crystal Thompson says 19-year-old Kevin Paktovicit stalked her and ran her truck off the road. Kevin claims the accident was her fault.
Now tell me what happened when you got there.
She was standing right there in between the couch and the wall and the office, and she was watching
where
TV.
is the office compared to
When
the
you
front
walk
door?
in, the living room's on this side, and then there's a door going into a den right here, and that's where the office is.
So it's off the front door.
Right. I walked into the office to clock in through the computer, and she was doing something in the kitchen. I think she was putting away her dishes. And then we had problems in the past with conflict between each other. She's very controlling. She's very controlling.
Not interested in her being controlling.
Okay.
Mr. Padilla, you had this discussion with her in the office.
Right. When I got there, I clocked in.
You told me you clocked in. You told me she was putting away the dishes.
Right.
You told me...
I told her, basically, I want you to talk to me with the same respect that I talk to you. She goes, you know what, Felix, you need to get a life. You need to become responsible. And she slammed the door in my face. She
This
didn't
is
have
in
any-
the office?
Yes.
So you had this conversation with her. She
Yes.
was in the kitchen, then she came back to the office. You had this conversation.
I wanted to say more to her just to get
Mr.
things settled. So,
Padilla.
because we were working 2 weeks nonstop,
You
just
see-
me and her.
Fine. Now, you see, sir, when you lie, it always comes back to bite you in the behind. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because according to your witness, your witness supports her version of that day. Not yours.
I understand what you're saying, but the office is right there at the front door.
Just listen to me. Not true according to your witness. They had a lengthy conversation. She wasn't even in the same room when he got there. She was in the kitchen.
Right.
Then she came back from the kitchen. All that takes time. So it's not, sir, as you suggest, that as soon as he walked in, they were standing right in front of the door and having an argument, and you were just waiting to see if everything was okay. So when you tell a fib, then you know what happens, sir? The person who's supposed to figure out the truth tends to doubt whatever it is that you're saying. You got it?
Yeah, I do.
Good. So now we get to the car. So now we get to somebody. So you're annoyed. You're annoyed because your friend is annoyed. And you decide, who are you?
I am his mother.
Whose mother?
Mr. Padilla's mother. I do not know her.
Just a second. What information do you have from your first-hand knowledge about the events of that day?
My son had called me. I'm sorry. My son had called me at my residence and had told me what had transpired that evening and evenings before that led up to the situation this evening, Your Honor. Apparently there was sexual harassment taking place at the place of employment by this girl, Crystal.
That's what he told you?
On several different occasions, yes, Your Honor.
So why did he, let me ask you this question. Instead of staying there because he shouldn't tolerate that sort of thing, why didn't he either leave or bring a sexual harassment lawsuit? Why didn't he do
had
that?
asked me what he could do, Your Honor, and I had explained to him, you have one of two choices. Either leave the place of the employment or do a sexual harassment suit against her. He, in that evening,
I didn't
did
want to
quit.
leave work.
He did not
I
want
enjoyed
to
my
leave the
job.
work. Your Honor. This girl here called my place of employment
My
and
old place
harassed
of
me
employment.
and threatened me, and I filed a police suit against her.
When was that?
About, it was a couple of weeks after this took place and my son had quit his place of employment.
Why would she call your place? What did she say to you?
Crystal used to work at where I worked, and she was let go because of her performance and because of other suits that were filed against her with the clients for racism and what have you with the city of Temecula. And at that point, she had accused me of walking in and taking her hours from her.
Listen, we're getting a little far afield of this. Let me tell you.
It
we're
does,
getting-
Crystal.
Hey,
It
listen to
does.
me. Hey, don't talk to her. Talk to me. let me tell you this. Your son, this young man here,
Yes, Your Honor.
has told me the whole truth so far about the events of this day. That's why we're here in court.
That is correct, yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe so far what he's told me. I think he's been honest. He knew he wasn't right not to get to work on time. It was irresponsible. She's not a partner in his trouble. This guy's a wise guy.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You gotta think before you act like a dope. How old are you?
19.
I give you a certain amount because you're a young dope.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Crystal Thompson wants Kevin Paktovichet to pay for her truck after she says he deliberately ran her off the road.
This guy's a wise guy. He waited for her outside, and he damaged her car.
But the reason that the situation took place, and I could see both sides, is that they were both angry because of the harassment and the things that she was saying to my son.
Let me tell you something. She didn't wait for him. He waited for her.
No, but they were both, from what I understand.
He waited for her. Why do you think, madam, he waited for her? What do you think that he was going to do when he waited for her? You don't know.
You're right, I don't.
Right. But common sense and what happened here suggests to me that he waited for her to harass her. And the best way to harass her was in the car, because he wasn't going to get into a shouting match with her. He figured, I'm going to harass her a little bit in the car. That's what happened. That's why he waited for her. Instead of avoiding confrontation, he instigated confrontation. And you cannot suggest to me, madam, that you believe that because of the problems that your son was having, if he was having those problems at work, he had the right to do that. He did not have the right to do that, because somebody could have gotten killed, somebody could have gotten hurt, somebody other than the two of you. A 5-year-old who was crossing the street in front of you when you were acting like a lunatic.
Your Honor, I totally understand that. I know that I'm at fault for doing that, that I was being stupid and I was being childish, but she was doing the same thing. Because once we got out on the road, she was playing the same games with me.
You waited for her, sir, to do it, right?
I understand that.
Well, you didn't tell me that first. First, you gave me some C and B stories, sir, about, well, you both just happened to leave at the same time. That's what you told me first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then you told me that you saw this
told you
big
that
argument.
I waited for the argument to be over.
Then you told me you saw this whole big argument at the front door when you saw absolutely nothing, because he was in there a good 5 minutes before she left.
But they were...
But me no buts! Give me the estimates on your car.
Why aren't you over here?
Mr. Padilla,
Yes.
you look like a nice young man.
Yes.
He's a wise guy. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? He's a wise guy. Don't get mixed up with wise guys. You look like a nice young man. You have a nice mother.
I got an estimate for everything that's mechanically wrong with my truck, that it won't work now, and then what it would do to fix the body of it.
A lot of damage. Show Mr. Padilla's mother the picture of the truck.
And the two after that, too. It's not just a little accident.
And you have some insurance coverage, is that right?
No, I have none.
Why don't you have insurance?
It canceled a month before because I was going to sell this car. Now, obviously, I can't, but I was selling
How much did you pay for the car? For the
My
truck?
dad paid $1,300 for it, but put thousands of dollars into it.
Paid $1,300?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's no way, madam, that I am going to give you, what are you asking for, $5,000?
Correct. That's way less than what it's going to cost me to fix my truck.
Show me the bills for what your father put into it.
I don't have those.
Well, I can't help you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
How long ago did you buy this car?
In '93. It was my first car when I was 16.
And what year car is it?
'82.
Okay. I'm giving you $1,300, which is what you paid for the car a very long time ago. Very few cars appreciate in value. They
Your Honor.
depreciate in value, yes.
Is there any, can I say anything about the threatening phone calls that I got from her? And what caused me to quit my job? The kind of things she said to me?
Just a second. Let me, wait 1 second.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Shh, shh, shh. He asked me a question. And I'm looking. Just a second. Did you file a counterclaim, sir?
I can't do it because...
Did you file a counterclaim?
No.
You have a lawsuit pending against her?
No.
Well, it might be interesting as to why you quit your job.
Well, that night after
While it might be interesting, sir, it's something that is not germane to this proceeding. What's germane to this proceeding is your friend acted like a dope, and he damaged her truck. And she can only establish to my satisfaction that she paid $1,300 for the truck. Nobody disputes that. You can't buy much for less than $1,300. But you got to think before you act like a dope. How old are you?
19.
Listen, I give you a certain amount because you're a young dope, right? But a car in the hands of somebody who is using it other than for transportation is like a weapon. You don't settle grudges with a car or a truck, right? You don't do that. It's not smart. That's how a lot of people get into trouble. That's all.
Rise, excuse you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If you ask Felix, I asked him every day to like inform me so I could be informed about how gay people are or how they are. You call yourself it.
What are you talking about?
You call yourself
I'm allowed to. It's me I'm talking about.
Hello?
You telling me is a different story. Now, if I told you you were a fat pig, wouldn't you be offended?
I wouldn't really care.
Okay.
I really wouldn't care.
It's
Your
the same-
opinion does not
it's the
matter
same
to me.
thing. No,
You walked out.
What did you
I didn't walk
expect?
out.
What
I
did you
have a good
expect?
job. You
Treat
have
me
a
that
no
way.
life.
Treat me that way.
You're not. You guys need to get a life. I don't even know you. Who
That's
are
right.
you?
You don't know me.
You need to get a life too.
No,
That's why you
no,
are.
I have a life.
Okay.
I have a life. I have
Okay.
a family. I have a job. I have a home. What have you got?
Yeah, this is case number 284 on the calendar in the matter of Bocock versus Bocock. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat.
Who are you, sir?
Herb Shavers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because I've read all of these papers. This is your father.
Yes.
Your mother?
Yes.
Ms. Bocock, according to your complaint, you are suing your father for money that you owe to the state.
Yes.
For child support.
Yes.
And that came about because several years ago, your daughter, who was quite young, was removed from your care. According to all the papers and documents that I've read, the child was removed from your care because the gentleman who you were living with hit her. She was about 18 months old. The child was placed in foster care for about a year, a little less than a year, and then went into your parents' home. Correct?
Reasonably close, yes, ma'am.
How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child,
Yes, ma'am.
which meant that you were getting money from the state as a foster parent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way things work these days, even if you're a grandparent. And then you were told that you had to file for either custody or guardianship of the child, and you consented to your parents having guardianship.
I was threatened.
Threatened by whom?
I was threatened by my social worker that if I did not give my parents guardianship, I would never see my daughter again. She would go up for adoption. I would never see her again. I was not given a choice.
Doesn't make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
I mean, you made certain choices when you were living with this gentleman that you were living with because the child was ultimately removed from your care again. She was removed from your care once, and then you were told that she would be removed permanently if you let her have any contact with this man, and according to the papers that I read, you let her speak to him on the phone. She was just a little girl, and then you moved back in with him because he had some financial problems.
That's not true.
Well, according to the papers that I've read, Miss Bocock, your little girl was assaulted by this man. She was taken to the hospital. Bruises were noted. You were told at the time that the man had to be out of the house before you could get your daughter back. Correct?
That's correct.
To make a long story short, the child was with you, and there was a period of time when you had guardianship of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
After she had lived with you for several years as a foster child, and you began receiving welfare for her.
AFDC, yes, ma'am.
To the tune of about $2,000. As the rules of the state are, parents are responsible for the support of their children. So the state pursued you for this welfare money.
Correct.
And you say that there was some sort of an arrangement with your father that he would pay this amount.
Yes.
He says that there was not, the amount wasn't paid, your driver's license was suspended, and your credit ruined.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about the arrangement with your father?
On June 15th, at the last guardianship hearing,
look at me.
He knew that I had received the summons. I was being sued by the state for the welfare money, for the $2,392. He pulled me aside just before the last hearing and said, I will take care of this matter. I know you can't pay for it. I will take care of it. My lawyer at the time was standing right next to me. I'm a student. I'm a mom. I'm struggling. It's very difficult. It's not that I don't want to pay it back, but he promised to take care of it for me as a father because he knew I was having difficulty. I just started going back to school. I'm in college. I'm nearly completion of my 2-year degree in biology. So I'm very close now, but it's very difficult. I'm financially very strained right now.
So you want to pay the money back because it's your loan.
Right.
It's your debt.
Right. But he promised to take care of it for me. So that's why I'm here today, because I want him to honor that promise to me.
Let me hear your side of this, sir.
Well, ma'am, at no time have I ever said to anyone that I would pay this money either to her or for her. I did have a conversation after one of the guardianship hearings with her lawyer, Mr. Chavers, in which I asked him if he could get me information, a name of the district attorney and a phone number to talk to the person, because if you try and call in the district attorney's office, you get the royal runaround unless you have a case number. Because I had some things I want to discuss with him. What I didn't tell him at the time was that I was curious as to why they were charging her, Sandy, more than Jessica had received. And if he assumed from that conversation that I was saying I was going to pay for it, it was a 100% erroneous assumption.
Were you taking the money from the state because you needed it for your granddaughter, sir?
No. We could have supported her without it. In fact, most of the period of the guardianship, we didn't even know that we were eligible to receive it. It was a previous caseworker that said that we could receive that money, and in fact, it went for her daycare.
So how long did you have her in your custody without receiving any support?
I would say in the neighborhood of a year.
Because prior to that, you had foster care money that was coming in. Step up, sir.
Your Honor, if I may, at any time during this whole guardianship issue, they knew that they could return my daughter to me with no strings attached. They
Well,
could
Ms.
return
Bocock,
her.
I don't believe that that's absolutely true.
I was absolutely willing to pay every cent to take care of her. I've never had a problem with that. But he promised to pay this amount. He said that he would.
Ms. Bocock, you just said a couple of things that really give me a problem. Let me tell you what they are, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life. I wanted him to honor his word this one time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica. Bob and his wife Barbara claim they looked after the little girl for 6 years and aren't responsible for the money.
If you wanted your daughter back, and you say there was no impediment to you getting your daughter back, and you were no stranger to the family court, all you had to do was to go into court, file your petition to terminate placement and to terminate guardianship, and if there was no impediment, you would have gotten your daughter back. So don't give me a lot of baloney that all they had to do was give her back. She's not a piece of meat. We're not talking about a parakeet.
I understand.
We're talking about a child.
I understand.
You understand that the child was removed from your care for cause by the family court, and the cause was neglect, because they only place children in foster care unless you voluntarily place your child when there is a finding of neglect. Aren't I right, sir?
This was under Arizona law, and I'm not familiar with Arizona law.
Well, Arizona is still part of the United States of America, sir. They do not remove children from parents without cause. Is that a fair statement?
Let me say this, that I've been involved in several cases where the issue of cause was at best in question, never substantiated.
That's why you're not the judge. That's why if the judge determines there's cause, a lawyer doesn't second guess them. I don't care what your view of the evidence was. The state cannot remove a child from a parent unless the parent voluntarily places that child or there is cause. So don't give me a lot of baloney. I've been in this business much longer than you have, sir. And that was my specialty. So if it's not yours, it was mine for 25 years. Now, you want to tell me your recollection of the conversation with Mr. Bocock?
There were two distinct and different conversations. One occurred in the hallway of the court following the hearing on June 15th. That conversation was involving Mr. Bocock, his attorney, the attorney for the minor as well, negotiations going back and forth.
Child had a lawyer.
Correct.
Child's always had a lawyer. They're called a law guardian, correct?
That's right, ma'am.
And the discussion was whether or not the child should be returned to the mother, correct?
Not at that point, no. The discussion was on the timing.
Our attorney had not told us that at this particular hearing, there had been an agreement at the attorney's level that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that we bring Jessica and she takes her home. And we
So you wanted more of a transition?
Yes, just to the end of the school.
And was that ultimately worked out?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Is that correct?
It was, except for his comment that it was a surprise to them. Came as quite a surprise to the counsels involved. We normally work these things out before we appear at court, so the reluctance that was expressed was quite surprising to us.
Well, it's not surprising to me because according to your former client, this conversation took place on the 15th of June. And according to the defendant, grandfather of the child, he said that what he wanted was a transition so that the child could at least finish school, which I assume is 2 weeks down the pike, the end of June. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That strikes you as being odd? The grandfather who's had custody of this child for 6 years says, listen, it's June 15th, school is over June 30th. You know, we need 2 weeks, and aside from the fact she's in school. Does that strike you as being peculiar, sir?
In view of the facts of the time, the fact that we've been discussing the transition for about 6 to 8 months before then, yes.
It did strike you as being odd.
We've been
That's
working.
odd. Doesn't strike me as being odd to wait 2 weeks until school is over. You have children?
Yes, I do.
Give me a break. All right, so now we're past that. Now we're down to money. Let me hear the conversation about the money.
We had been discussing for months the return of the child to the mother. It was obvious that the grandparents, because of the timing that they had applied for the AFDC payments, was already after the time that we had already discussing returning the child to the mother. There's not an issue of financial need on behalf of the grandparents. It was a matter of timing. At the hearing, the grandfather stated that he would handle the AFDC payments.
Just a second. What you heard is, I will handle it.
The exact verbiage, I'm unsure. What I recall is handle it or words to that effect.
Okay, so you're not as sure what the words were.
Not
Thank
an
you. You can have a
exact
seat.
word. There was another conversation.
Give me the other conversation.
The other conversation in context. Following the hearing on the 15th, I hand-carried all the court documents from the AFDC payments to Mr. Bocock's attorney the following day, confirmed the fact that Mr. Bocock was willing to handle the AFDC payments, and
confirmed with whom?
Confirmed to his attorney in the letter that I sent.
Just a second. You sent a letter to the attorney.
Correct.
You have a letter from the attorney to you confirming that?
No, I do not
Okay.
have a letter disputing it either.
He doesn't have to dispute it. You have a letter you sent to him and say, here, your client says he's going to take care of this. You have a letter from his attorney that says, that's correct, my client is going to take care of this?
Based on my extensive dealings with his attorney, had that statement been incorrect, I would have received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know, you can't rely on that. You sent him a letter. Here, your client said he would take care of this, and he says, what, is he crazy? Takes it and throw in the garbage. You think that he has an obligation to respond to you? He has no legal obligation to respond to you.
But he did, in fact, respond.
How? Let me see.
The response was in the form of a conversation.
That's hearsay.
I understand
With the
that, but
attorney.
It's also
Just a
operative
second.
fact.
With the attorney, not with him.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Bocock.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock, not a conversation that you had with an attorney that didn't answer your letter.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock says her father should be responsible to pay the state money owed for child care of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. Bob Bocock says he took care of Jessica for 6 years and should not be held responsible for the money.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock.
He told me to, if I would get the amount due that he had received, he would pay for that. He would reimburse that amount.
Did you ever say that to him, sir?
No, ma'am, I never did. I have a copy of the letter that I sent to my attorney
Can I see the copy of the letter
in
that you
response
sent?
to the letter that he had hand-delivered to her.
Let me tell you, I've seen this, I saw this letter. Have you seen this letter?
No, I've not.
Let me show it to you, sir. Evidently, there was some sort of a miscommunication. He said his concern was that they were asking her for more money than the child actually received from AFDC, and that the conversations that he had had with both you and his attorney dealt with the fact that he didn't understand why they were seeking more from his daughter than his granddaughter actually received from the state. All right. Listen to me very carefully, Ms. Bocock. How old are you?
27.
You made a baby, right?
Yes.
You made a baby at a time that you had no right to make a baby. That you weren't prepared to take care of a baby. But for the fact that your parents took your daughter out of foster care and agreed to become foster parents to this child, there is a very strong probability, based on the fact that this child was out of your care, that your social worker was absolutely correct, that the state would have moved in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights and free the child for adoption. There is no question about that. And you are an intelligent young woman, and you know that. Your daughter is now 7?
She's 9.
9. And how long has she been in your care?
2.5 years.
So for the first 7 years of her life, you supported her with nothing.
I gave her love and emotional support, which is more than they gave her.
No. She was in foster care for a year, which means some strangers gave her love and affection, and then she lived with your mother and father, who were up with her during the night, who wiped her nose when she got sick. If she got an upset stomach, they took care of
Your
her.
Honor, I'm
you were
sorry.
living there?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, I did live there for a couple months.
I'm not talking about a couple of months, madam. How long did your daughter live with your parents?
I don't remember the exact years. She lived with her for a number of years. But why did I end up pregnant at 17? The emotional and physical abuse in that home is unimaginable.
You
It's
better stop
very
blaming other.
bad.
Listen
No,
to me. You better stop blaming other people for your life's travails, madam.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Your father didn't make you pregnant. There are lots of ways to get away from a bad situation. Having a baby is not one of them. There are other avenues. To make a long story short, what the state is now asking you for is $2,000. And they're saying, over the years, the state of California has probably spent $150,000 in foster care payments and administrative fees for your daughter. We're not seeking to recoup that from you now that you're back on your feet. We're seeking to recoup $2,000 from you. That doesn't sound like a lot if you make a baby. $2,000 over 9 years doesn't keep a child in shoes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Bocock, get your act together. Stop blaming everybody else for your troubles. I mean, your lawyer may think that somebody else is responsible for your troubles. Comes a point, you're 27 years old, you're responsible for your own troubles. And you can work out some sort of a system with the state to take care of this $2,000 that you owe them.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have paperwork. In the last week, I received papers that they were going to garnish my wages.
Good!
Take my driver's license.
Just a second. Good.
Okay.
They can garnish your wages, and then you know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation that taxpayers in this state paid for your daughter. Now, I'm not quite frankly condoning, Mr. Bocock, the fact that you didn't really have a need for the money, and yet you took money from the state to support your grandchild. And I say that because even though the law gives you the right to do that, I always felt as if you didn't have a need for that and this was your blood, you should do it yourself. But between the two of you, you've got to pay for your child, not him. It's not his obligation. It's your obligation. So, your lawsuit against your father is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If she were so concerned about the emotional and physical well-being of her daughter, why did she move 450 miles away to be with her boyfriend who had physically abused her daughter?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else. That doesn't take a psychologist to figure out. He's been in my life for 10 years. He never beat her. My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record